my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. What's it take to get me on the radio? Slow down for me, goddamn, slow down for me. Icy boy, I'm an icy boy. Icy boy, the frozen soul. Suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy, the frozen soul. Suicide doors are looking. Icy boy, the frozen soul. Suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy, the frozen soul. Suicide doors are looking gorgeous though.
take you back. Spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Raising the belly of the beast. There were days where I barely had sleep, but I had to work more than competition. I can't live like the opposition. Living everything I dreamed of, doing everything you think of. The way I work, I'm on the brink of doing everything you dreamed of. Only aim for perfection, ain't no half stepping. I'm gonna take you back, spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. In the city, plenty havoc causing. Do or die, it's either all or nothing. Best believe I'm leaving out with something. Anytime I got the crowd jumping, throwing reds, you know they fist pumping. I'm the king of dysfunction. What would you do if you had my life? Work like me, had them stripes. Would you go hard just to have that ice? Lot of dudes fell trying to have that price. In a yo cooking about to add that spice. Nowadays dudes
Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is will you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up. You witnessing a champ in the making, fueled by your passion for greatness. Yeah, but adversity and bad situations meet us in the middle of the paths that we taking. But it's what you do after that makes men. Will you quit or will you stand up and face it? Tell me, do you have what it takes to swing back when this life asks for the fade? Can you tell me you'll adapt to the change when the punch lands and it puts you flat on your face? After you wake, will you stand up and say, get mad, hit back, lit match to the flames? Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is will you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up.
Icy boy with diamonds on my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. Always sleeps through the day. It's these vices keep me awake. Yeah, I'm coming up with reasons for running with my demons. Yeah, they tell me that I need them. Now every other weekend I'm in West LA to flash my sweat in a mass display. I gave those bombing to say so. So I'm paid for to meditate. Icy boy with diamonds on my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. What's it take to get me on the radio? Slow down for me, goddamn, slow down for me. These kids just want my sanity. Watch me fall down, go down. Oh, trending with the cool kids. I wear it if the shoe fits, yeah. Designer brand exclusive. I wear it once and lose it for the next best thing. One quick slip and then I'm out of frame. No one really seems to care though. Got an ego, can't explain. No. Icy boy with diamonds on my frozen soul. Spending all my money on expensive clothes. What's it take to get me on the radio? Slow down for me, goddamn, slow down for me. Icy boy, I'm an icy boy. Icy boy, the frozen soul. Suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy, the frozen soul. Suicide doors are looking. Icy boy, the frozen soul. Suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy, the frozen soul. Suicide doors are looking gorgeous though.
action. Ain't no half stepping. I'm gonna take you back. Spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Belly of the beast. There were days where I barely had sleep, but I had to work more than competition. I can't live like the opposition. Living everything I dreamed of, doing everything you think of. The way I work, I'm on the brink of doing everything you dreamed of.
يلقى مكان فكان في دامج وحاول تضغط على
بالفعل روب المخطبوط العراق موجود معانا ليخلص بالفعل تواجد الاي سبورت مع
تكسر الوضع تاع اوبا حاليا على غرد لوحده بصراحه هذا الليد لم يكن في مكان مناسب. سيكتور يا سيكتور يا سيكتور يا سيكتور.
Welcome everyone here to the final day of, course, second Super Weekend here at the PMPL Arabia Full Split 2022. My name is Highland Wolf, and if you're just joining us, well, welcome. And of course, if you want to let us know what you're thinking of the tournament so far, you can, of course, do so using the hashtag PMPL Arabia. As always, jump in on a conversation using YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok as well. And of course, let us know who your favorite team is, who you are rooting for, as we say. But it's not just me on the desk, of course, today. It's also joined by the wonderful Monica once again for the Saturday evening. Monica, it's been 2 days so far of a hectic Super Weekend. Are you excited for one more?
I am so excited. If you guys are just joining us now, we've been bringing you all the hype all weekend, and there's been quite a trend of events. We saw a glider being used for about 5 seconds yesterday. We saw some mishaps with car rotates as well. So let's hope they clean it up a little bit here, but definitely all of them going all out for this last day of this Super Weekend.
No 4-man car rotations today. Please, my heart can't take it. But what we do have is a format, of course, for the tournament overall, Monica. And starting us off, again, we are going to be in the Super Weekends with the top 16 teams this week, playing, again, another 5 matches for our final day of the week. Of course, they all came from those weekdays, but it's about where they progress, Monica, because the all accumulated points from this weekend, last weekend, and the next weekend coming will be then the qualification status for those finals.
Yeah, having this kind of format, really being able to include so many more teams, just the 20 teams instead of just the classic 16. So even if you're watching yesterday and the day before, you're wondering, where are the other 4 teams? You keep seeing the same 16. They'll be back for the weekdays that will start actually in 2 days, where it kind of all resets. Those points, just those 2 days, are trying to qualify next week, which is the very last Super Weekend.
Right, of course, we are in, of course, our top 16 teams, as we say, and it's not only going to to be today, of course, that we have the action, Monica. We also have the rest of, well, now July, because we are, of course, in now the 2nd of July at the end of our second Super Weekend. Week 3 and Super Weekend 3 will be next week. Keep in mind, the crucial Wednesday still is a play day. Do not go anywhere because it won't be Thursday. We're coming back at you. It's one day earlier. And then also a short break before the end of July. We have our crowning of the PMPL champion at the finals.
Time is sure flying because we're having so much fun in this PMPL Arabia. Hope you guys are having so much fun with us as well. But yeah, we're officially over the halfway point in this tournament in terms of the Super Weekends. So these teams, it's starting to get down to the wire for the number of points they need to get to qualify into finals.
And it's very, very important for these teams, of course, to get those points because they equal the prizes that these teams are also going for. Of course, every team too going to get $2,500 for their efforts by competing just at the beginning of the tournament, but also the winner chicken dinners. Every single match, of course, for our final 5 games here at the Super Weekend will return $1,000 to each of those winning teams, whoever they may be. Of course, as well, we have our finals later in the latter half of this tournament in July, as we said, which has its own separate prize pool.
Every single chicken dinner this weekend as well, and the previous and next weekend is going to be $1,000 cash money. So I know some of the teams that did get multiple actually chicken dinners and all as well. It's going to be famously GEEKAY, you know, with 5 chicken dinners found so far in the Super Weekends, having $5,000 cash money. So that's just tallying, adding up, and that's just, you know, not included in that prize pool you see down below and the ones in the finals.
Right, and I think the team that really is raking in the most money right now, Monica, has to be GEEKAY. So far, they've accumulated $5,000 out of their 5 wins in these Super Weekends, and they seem to be really an unstoppable force that no one can catch up to.
GEEKAY is just, I don't know, like they won 2 of them actually yesterday, I want to say, 2 of the chicken dinners, along with NASR, which is very surprising. I mean, I'd say, I know it's a team that can win it out. It's just we hadn't really seen that kind of play style and that kind of success from NASR at all this tournament so far.
Yeah, and I think NASR stepping up along with a few of those other teams. POWR also had those good results, of course, Monica too. And I think it's that generous now of that teams coming in from the bottom end, picking up those points, as well as GEEKAY, as we said, running away with those standings. We can look, of course, at our 16 qualified teams here, Monica. And as we said, the name's already there, as we have mentioned. But I think it's also important to note that, again, we have 3 new teams competing in this Super Weekend. That being, of course, Falcons. They're also the edge of SKYROCKET, and they're yeah,
12, right?
Yeah, 12. If I can get my words out here.
I think it was Kurt 12 as well, but those 3 teams. When you see them here, of course, that means that there were a couple of teams that didn't make the Super Weekend, right? And that's going to be very surprisingly OOREDOO Thunder's CONQUEROR 90th Minute, who were in last weekend's Super Weekend.
Yes.
So they, like you said yesterday, they can't even defend themselves right now in the standings because they're not even playing this weekend.
Yeah, and I think crucially as well, VISTA Gaming too, that other team that still has to make it into a Super Weekend. So a lot on their shoulders coming into that week 3 next week. But I think as we focus on this week, we can, of course, check out those standings, Monica, where our current teams competing are right now in towards those finals, potentially qualification spots. As GEEKAY are going to be, as we said, in that pole position, 281 points so far, and almost 150 elimination points, but they have topped out already in their placement points. By far the most aggressive team here.
The one thing I really want to see from NASR is, yes, they can close out those chicken dinners and get those wins, but each of their wins yesterday were kind of low in elimination points, right? It was very, if you guys remember from the last game yesterday, they were just on the opposite side of the circle from all the teams in the lobby, and until the very end, and they kind of racked up the 9 eliminations that they found. The previous game that they won in Sanhok, it was only 5 eliminations with a chicken dinner. So they're having kind of low fragging powers with their chicken dinner, so maybe playing a little bit more aggressively like we saw from the likes of Major Pride, where it was just constant, just in the middle of the fight, in the middle of the fight, in the middle of the fight, and for multiple matches they're racking up 13 eliminations without even the chicken dinner.
NIGMA as well stepping up, I think, through this weekend alongside their major pride, now both making that third and fourth position respectively. Twisted Minds yesterday not having a good performance have now dropped down to that fifth position too. On the alternative though, you look at the likes of Triple Esports who are also chasing those goals now.
Mm-hmm. Twisted Minds, Triple Esports as we get to that kind of middle half, and they're really, they're not out of the picture yet. There is a 100-point difference between first and fifth place, but we still have today and next Super Weekend to get some more points as we take a look at the second half. Now, these are we're seeing a couple of those teams that we mentioned are not playing this weekend, Highland Wolf, so
Yes.
they may potentially be in danger of dropping even down past the 16-point today.
And that's really the danger zone, right? That 100 mark point for 90th minute. I'm expecting Falcons to surpass that, considering how close they have gotten. But the real concern is, of course, some of those teams who have played 25 games, both the only one and Rad, still needing to pick up those points because they are behind even the likes of OOREDOO Funders, who are ahead of them in points, but have played 10 less games, Monica.
I think it's safe to say Rad will probably overcome OOREDOO Thunders at the point today, unless they just get 0 points the entire day. Which,
I hope not.
knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen. I mean, it is probable, but it's a very low chance that happens.
Yes, of course.
But yeah.
I mean, we also have, right, our three other teams here, Monica too, on that third page as well. And Falcons, as we said, SKYROCKET, COR12. And I think for Falcons, it's been really a great weekend so far. They're almost at 100 mark and averaging about those 9.9 points a game. Are we expecting Falcons now to overtake some of these other teams who have played not only 10 matches less, but potentially even 15 matches more, sorry, should I say?
I think kind of same situation, 1 point less than 90th minute, who is not defending themselves this weekend. So, I mean, unless Falcons doesn't get any points today, I'm hopeful that they will be able to jump and soar over into the top 16. And then SKYROCKET's Curd, they're a little bit shy as well. We saw Curd 12, some mishaps with some vehicle rotations all in the same one that kind of just didn't prove fruitful for them. Yeah, he's like, don't remind me again. But 54 points, they're a little bit. They need to turn things around if they want to get in that top 16.
Yeah, I mean, COR12 realistically are looking, I think, despite whatever they get today, unless they are maxing out about 20 points a game, realistically going to need to get back into that third week in the future. So it's going to be a very long haul series of days and this next following week for COR12. Also, I think SKYROCKET under that potential bubble. I think Falcons, on the other hand, you have seen a lot from them. I think they will need to show a little bit more depending on who gets through into that third super weekend, but they have certainly created a solid foundation for themselves. And that's what these three teams are really looking for, Monica, this week.
Each of those three teams at the bottom, Falcon, Curd 12, and SKYROCKET, remember they weren't in the Super Weekend last weekend. They came into the first day this Super Weekend guns a-blazing. Each one of them got a chicken dinner in that first day to really start the weekend strong. And then yesterday we didn't really see that much from them, right? It was just kind of a very mediocre, very poor kind of performance, not a lot of points across all the 5 matches. So today maybe they dip down low. Maybe this is their turn to dip up high again.
And you know what you need to dip up higher, Monica? It's none other than that Monster Energy, our official energy drinks partner of the PMPL at Arabia. But of course, they're going to need more than just the Monster Energy to get through our 5 maps today. And it's going to be, again, the same maps that we have had previously, Monica. And we can talk about them just now and say, well, Erangel, of course, is going to be the major 3 maps that these teams are going to have to fight on. And I think the other hand to that was that Erangel wasn't actually the easiest map for a lot of our teams yesterday, particularly.
Yeah, Erangel, you definitely, in the Super Weekends, need to have Erangel locked down because you play it 3 times out of the 5 matches in a given day. So if Erangel's your kind of weak point, right, you're not going to be doing well. It's like, great, you do well in Sanhok, for example, Road to Glory, we saw them have huge success in Sanhok. Not necessarily yesterday, though, because NASR came and stole that one away from them. But if you aren't, based on just driving point, you have to have Erangel down because it's the majority of matches in the weekend.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a lot of those changes, as we said, adaptations and styles. But we also, I think, have to say that it's not just been Erangel, right? You mentioned Sanhok has been one of these maps that have created a lot of difference in terms of the value of these teams and the points they can pick up. I think also Miramar is also another part of that puzzle that these teams are still trying to solve.
Miramar, we've seen a lot of success on Miramar from a team like CONQUEROR, Iraq. Unfortunately, they're not in this weekend, but we also saw a team like Twisted Minds win out a lot of Miramars too. Somehow, it's just, I mean, that's the kind of beauty of a region that's very balanced, right? You're not just, oh my God, you know, these three teams are constantly winning. They're just taking turns winning the matches, right? I've seen that in other regions that, you know, I think you as well have casted or have observed. And this one is just, man, it's just a lot of teams that can perform well.
Yeah, as we said, a reminder of our map schedule here at Monaco. It is, as we said, Erangel, Miramar, Sanhok that we talked about, all going to be these three maps played. Erangel, as we said, 3 times throughout the course of our Erangel sandwich tonight. And I think realistically, these teams are going to have to look hungry, particularly some, as we said, for those points. And I do want to dip back to some of those other teams, and before we get into that first Erangel match, and mention the likes of course, the only one, and also here, Rod, 2 of these teams that I think, for me, haven't looked the flashiest so far, most importantly. What is it that these teams, would you be saying, Monica, at least in your experience from what you've seen so far this weekend, would you say that they need to do?
I'm seeing a lot of slower rotations from some of the central teams like NIGMA Galaxy, right? They land into the middles of Erangel, but they seem to kind of sit and wait and just overloot for 15 minutes. And then, so you know, if you have a team landing in Pachica, if you look at other regions, they're usually loot for 5-6 minutes, find the vehicle spawns all around the city, and then just dive into the center, and that's kind of their play style, and that's what warrants dropping in a central position does. But they're playing a edge strategy in a central position, so it seems a little odd, a little bit of an outlier for them. And they did well in Miramar yesterday, but I haven't, even though they are in 3rd place, they should be way higher.
And is it that now the issue of these potential rotating teams from that eastern side too, who are looking to contest NIGMA, but also looking for a position, like we said, the only one, Monica, also Rad, who do tend to struggle here to pick up those points to make those rotations work for them?
Yeah, we're having the ones on the edges are actually rotating faster than the ones in the center a little bit. So we're seeing some teams kind of rotate all the way around a team like NIGMA Galaxy or even NASR or GEEKAY landing into kind of the central parts of the map. GEEKAY, though, they're on something else, though. I was mentioning it yesterday. This is one of those teams that really has their strategy. They're not experimenting at all anymore. They're just obviously 5 chicken dinners, the most out of any team. They know how to play and they know how to close out matches.
And of course, we are coming up to what will be our first game here, as we say, Monica. I think a lot of the pressure really riding on these teams, as we said, as we jump into that playing path for getting those points. Right now, it is the last 5 games, the opportunity of these teams to put themselves in a standing, put themselves in a position, Monica, where a 5-day straight week of games next week will be a little bit less stressful potentially.
It's the mental endurance and the mental stability that experience lends to these teams. If you're a team that has played a lot of these kind of tournaments, you know, knows how to play at this high stress, high intensity, and can keep their caliber up high, like the likes of GEEKAY, Major Pride, like NIGMA Galaxy, all up at the top, then they can still compete. I heard your reaction though. Yesterday I was like, we need an extremity circle because I haven't really seen that, and we had 3 so central circles yesterday, 2 in GACA and 1 in school.
And what this does, a zone like this to the playing path, is it really does affect these teams worse than it potentially could have done, because that playing path is more towards the opposite end of Erangel. Now, RTG, who would drop here around Stalba, also teams who tend to drop here around Yasnaya Polyana, as we've seen Falcons do on that direction too, won't be able to get there immediately. Now, Falcons, they can continue to fly out and drive on this location, rotation. But RTG, on the other hand, have opted for a different playstyle completely. And it's the first time here, Monica, that actually RTG, they're going to be dropping on this eastern coastline, which is something that we've not seen from this organization since last spring split.
You know, it's hilarious. Road to Glory has actually been taking up the Stauber area. Remember the glider mishap that was way up north of Yasnaya? So I think the plane path was a little bit too far for their liking of getting all the way up there, which is why they ended up going on this western coastline. But if the plane path was a little bit more forgiving and they had gone up there, they would have been really set up well to win out this match.
See all these teams still landing down, of course, on the field. A lot of them still, as we say, having to continue to drive through to their locations. Yalla are going to be those closest, I think, to the zone. Falcons as well, both respectively in Savoni and Yasnaya Polyana equally. I think where these type of zones really do create a lot of change and potentially the way these teams will be rotating. I expect a lot, as we say, to rotate through that Gatka main point of Erangel itself. But then on the other hand, I would really love to see at this point some of those more northern rotations by teams. Now, RTG could do this and try to opt, as we see them already rotating to that Everest point, and maybe even utilize that George Paul Bridge in towards Yalla and make a quicker rotation on kind of those vehicles to load up, yes, on their road to Stauber Hill itself, but be able to get a quicker rotation there, meaning that we'll be more settled later by the time that first phase does end.
First phase popping up, Road to Glory, looks like. So they landed on the western side. Identify the circle was up in that northeast corner. They haven't, I mean, you can look at their loot. One first aid, one, monster drink in their backpacks. So they just immediately looted just one building, got in the vehicles, and are starting to rotate for the circle now. So I like this proactivity and this time management from them. Go for the initial loot, rotate while everyone else is still looting, and then find your kind of secondary spot, a much better, central spot if they want to choose that, because no one has rotated yet, and then continue the looting phase there.
And it will slow down, of course, their looting phase for now, but it does help, as we say, because it will be able to avoid those later rotations of teams blocking those bridges out. Now, also GEEKAY, an interesting rotation by them, is we get to see them on the screen. They've split 2-2 between the ruins in that water town towards Sanhok as well, and it's actually a smart decision by GEEKAY because they have come to realize that no team does drop in Watertown or the ruin section early on. They know that they are the only ones who drop in Sanhok so far in the tournament, and therefore are using, as we say, that space advantage, not only to get themselves more loot in a wider area, but it gives them more information, particularly in this early game, where teams will be, as we say, making those early rotations and potentially spot them out on that bridge past Sanhok.
Not only do they have the knowledge that is open like that, I think just that external game pressure that's coming from the standings, right? All the teams are well aware that GEEKAY is #1 in the standings, 5 chicken dinners found. They don't want to mess with the likes of GEEKAY. They know they are playing at their highest caliber. They are doing really, really well, and they really don't want to, especially if a team like POWR, who is just a little bit further down on the standings from them, they don't want to pick an early game fight from them. So I think a lot of the teams, even in the semi-general area, like NASR in school or, in that general vicinity, they are giving them a lot of breathing room because they don't want any sort of sights of GEEKAY.
Look, I would be a bit scared to contest against GEEKAY here, but I think one team isn't scared to contest them, and it has been YALLA in the past, as 4K are driving by them right now. YALLA have looked on fire when it comes to the confidence. Maybe it hasn't always worked out for them, to be said. It has come to their downfall a few times, but nevertheless, YALLA are showing them themselves that they are here to play.
YALLA, especially in Sanhok, which we shall see later, but there, I mentioned, hey, nobody wants to fight against GEEKAY. That kind of only applies to Erangel, because YALLA and GEEKAY, we see them time and time again. I don't even know how many times now, all landing in boot camp and having that early game fight. And so far, YALLA, it's in their favor for how many times they've won.
I'm gonna have a bet with you, Monica. Okay.
Oh gosh.
It's just a friendly bet. No, nothing to it. But I am guessing here that one day, maybe, I'm hoping this day, I'm gonna say it's gonna be today, that YALLA and GEEKAY don't both land in boot camp. I'm guessing that's
Oh.
my onlook towards Sanhok. I mean, can you give me a day, right? But you are thinking that that's going to change as well.
Yeah, I think right now they're okay, right? This is super weekend, and especially in league play where the points don't really matter as long as they're in top 16. They're going to just continue to fight and fight and fight. But I think, yeah, at some point, I think GEEKAY is going to be. I mean, if they're healthily in first place, it doesn't really matter to them. If they go healthily, it doesn't matter, right? So they'll just keep going there. But YALLA, I think YALLA at some point is going to recognize, hey, we're losing out on a couple thousands of dollars because we keep landing here.
So you think that YALLA are going to be the ones to move away? Oh, I see. I like your Starvo. You're using the standings. You got a bigger brain than me, Monica. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. I was just thinking like it won't working for these teams.
Oh, well, even though YALLA has won the fight in bootcamp more, it's also not us having a long extended Sanhok conversation on Erangel, but even though they've won it more, they are it's debilitating their rest of the end game, right? Like, yay, we win bootcamp, but then POWR came in third party, we can't rotate out. It's just not going well.
And this second phase, as we talk about those rotations, of course, into the game, Erangel going to be closing up to his next shift, and I'm curious to where it will go here. It could go for both those south and those kind of more northeastern locations. We'll change up how these teams play, depending on which way it comes. A few of these teams still to rotate into that next shift, as it will go down towards that eastern end. And yes, Naya Pollyanna going to be the center point of it, Monica.
Falcons have a nice central position. They have the entire city that they've landed in. So Falcons, just relative to everyone else, has the most information of the central circle because they have huge sight lines all the way. It's open fields, right? All the way around. They know, like, hey, they probably identified Rad came out over. But over here we have Kurd 12 driving past the Walmart warehouses as Raouf and NIGMA Galaxy. They've had some troubles with rotating this late and losing players off rotation.
And I think realistically, it has been those rotations that have cost Kurd. I mean, we could talk about it yesterday, but I'm going to avoid it because I feel like my respect for Kurd is a little bit higher. I'm hoping, I have the confidence that they're going to be able to get there and have the success on the rotations. I mean, it's hard, I think, to come back from the confidence, regardless of the memes. To see a push, to see the way in which Kurd 12 played yesterday, something's definitely up with that organization and the players. I mean, I know Kurd can play better. We've seen Kurd play better. We've seen him take a chicken dinner, right, in the first day this weekend. Yes. So it's an interesting change to now see him struggle so much in that second day, but it's those beginning shots do begin to come out. YALLA are going to strike first blood. RTG going to be the first one to fall and lose a member completely, is YALLA getting themselves up to one elimination, but it's only rotations, of course, as teams still beginning to settle in that phase 2.
Road to Glory a little bit underlooted. Remember, they landed on that western coastline and were still caught on the rotate to try to get over here. Rad, though, found by NIGMA Galaxy, and that's going to be one elimination found for them. But going back, Road to Glory. Remember, it's been 10 minutes into the match. They've been rotating for about 5 minutes, right? And they only had that initial quick loot. So YALLA is set up much better than them, having had so much more time looting in Severny.
And YALLA as well, finding potentially here another knockdown onto GEEKAY. Gaith will not be succumbed to the fire of YALLA Esports for now, but Satan is on their way through the rotation. YALLA also fairly split here as well. Keep in mind, Sanji, for them, still going to be knocked. They will make that revive occur, but 4K are looking in another direction.
I'm wondering how 4K got all the way over here, because this is the team that usually lands in the Lipkovka area. I want to say they alternatively dropped over to the Zarki area. So, okay, now that makes sense. But I think 4K, Road to Glory are caught a little bit, I think out of place here, because this is an area that they're not too used to looting up and rotating through.
YALLA will now strike down their second elimination. And it's smarter position for them to actually control this Tower Hill, just kind of split apart, looking for those rotations of teams, rotating on that wider path up towards the north side of the lake to Yasnaya Polyana. But it's this next zone shift, it really will determine a lot of where these teams are going to be going, because still is Tower Hill, still there's the south side of Yasnaya available to these squads.
Look how spread out Major Pride is, having Milky Way all the way on the southern side. Circle shifts down onto the fields. Okay, this is going to be hugging just the edges of Yasnaya, but we've seen this circle before, Highland Wolf, and it is all open. There's very minor, small compounds that these teams are definitely going to be fighting to take residence into. But lots of open fields, again, rocks and such. So if it keeps going into the open field, these teams need to keep their vehicles alive. They need to keep all their teammates alive as well and save their resources for the very end.
I have a feeling a lot of these teams will want to avoid those kind of more center points of the zone now. POWR have a nice position coming in towards those Yasnaya Barrel Hills. It's going to be a little bit tricky to really navigate between from one side to the other. And you can see as those rotations begin to come out, SKYROCKET trying to push for their compound, but Kurt12 wanted the same one. It's a 1-for-1 trade for now, as only Hazemvo in the front lines almost gets blown into smithereens by Salam's nade. Salam steps up, will find a final shot into the back, but Salam will also fall down to the long range of NIGMA as they look to fight.
Oh man, that was a third. I mean, it was two bottom teams, Kurt12 versus SKYROCKET, committing to this fight, but the third parties from NIGMA Galaxy from one side and Triple Esports from the other. So it's just the central area where all these teams are so congested into. It's so hard to take these fights because everyone is looking at you as soon as the gunshots erupt.
And SKYROCKET barely getting Salam in there, finally get a revive off, but Kurt12, they have absolute control over their position, and it will be difficult for, of course, SKYROCKET to come back out of that rotation, fire back onto our Rufus. NIGMA, as you said, are also on that third party, are looking to come in, and it's crucial that SKYROCKET keep their position for now. A push by NIGMA at this point would be dire for the rest of the SKYROCKET crew.
I think it was a little bit too optimistic split from Kurt12, especially with the circle shifting onto this area, because clearly there's not a whole lot of compounds and spaces to take, so somebody's going to be looking at that compound as well. Twisted Minds, though, they need to have a bigger performance to win this compound fight, with Major Pride still looking for some way to enter the circle.
Twisted Mind so very comfortably in a position of control. The edge of the zone finds down Yan as well. And Major Pride, all too understanding of Twisted Mind's positions, will just circumvent them completely and go into the blue for a second, dip back out, says no, they cannot take that fight. But YALLA will be the first to fall, and that's surprising considering they were the ones picking up players. It seems that all of them have been picked up themselves. A 16th position with only 2 eliminations is still Twisted. Continue to look for that control as this POWR looking next to the compounds.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what happened to YALLA, because they were looking so very strong on that northern side. And for them to go out in 16th position, it's how the tables have turned not in the favor of YALLA. So they're going to be the first ones back in lobby and trying to regroup. But Circle, it does fling itself over that northwestern side, Highland Wolf, and it's going to be all open fields on that end.
And a lot of that northwestern side, Monica, is completely just diabolical terrain for these teams to have to contest with, and you see all going into the barrel holes, but Twisted Minds work quicker to the rotation and will strike down NASR. 2 punishes through very quick and clean, but Twisted, they have to lay down the groundwork now, because every other team will continue to be looking on these positions too.
Twisted Minds just rotating much faster than NASR. Looks like their Twisted Minds, though, we're taking another POV onto this fight between the two, trading out knocks on either end, as Major Pride going for the flush on Ragnarok. So if you want to take a player and really debilitate Twisted Minds, that's the player to definitely do it on.
We're still looking strong. Gotta remember as well, 5 eliminations here for NIGMA Galaxy, who we haven't seen all game, but they seem to be making work and quick work of it. There's still more of those teams, as we argue, are going to be continuing to come down onto those barrel hills. And Twisted Minds taking up one, Radar on the other, and there's not that much space now for more teams to come in. A third team would create that conflict that would upset a lot of the positions overall. And you are now looking at more of those edge positions, Monica, who teams such as GEEKAY, such as NIGMA, who don't have to worry about those barrel holes because they've got those high heels on the east, which are much more valuable of a position.
Oh, we have Major Pride just playing fast and furious and driving right into the midst of Road to Glory, going for the flushes. However, there's one still left alive and quickly trying to get the first aid. Real sneaky incognito, trying to get his health as high as possible, but was found out on the backhand side from Triple Esports.
And it's an unfortunate position by RTG as well, who, Monica, not had really that great a day yesterday. But Major Pride, they seem to be on form once more for their first game, and they get away with it completely from the side of Triple Esports. And it's a smart decision, a rotation away from that fight. They do lose Milky Way in the back, but they should be able to find a revive. And Triple, they can't even contest because they also need to make sure they have a more central location into this zone because their current space is very vulnerable to those eastern teams, as we said, who could potentially be rotating in the future on that phase 4 to phase 5 mark.
POWR had such a great day yesterday as well, as Twisted Minds is coming over the top between the two dips on this open field and goes for the flush onto a member of Red, so debilitating them down to 50%. They're all stuck here. Their vehicles are, blown up or about to blow up. Can't really use that to rotate anymore as we look to see the big picture, the eye in the sky, see where this next circle will go next. And I mean, coming here, Falcons finally leaving the Yasnaya city where it's gifted them so much time within the circle, but we see a little scrimmage on the eastern side between the only one and SKYROCKET.
Phase 5, about to hit the fastest point of the first game, and Falcons again get the control of that zone, but it's gonna be so difficult for them to control it. They have the compound, they have a slight hillside to their own, but as you can see, a lot of the teams will be on looking past them now. That roadside, though, on the east, gonna be a lot of a problem of those eastern rotating teams because it doesn't actually buy a lot of space on the latter end of that roadside, but Twisted Minds on that more westerly end of the school, sending it in back to their demise as Rod very swiftly put them out.
Oh, it's all gone wrong for them. They should have stopped a little bit, lobbied some grenades resources if they had it, or smoked it out a little bit. Just sending two into the vehicle puts them in a super vulnerable situation where they can't shoot on back, and it was just within 2 seconds, the entirety of Twisted Minds had been taken out of the lobby.
And Major Pride now on their own rotation. POWR, of course, are behind them. They need to be swift about picking those extra vehicles up. Everyone's on the move. Everyone's mobilized. It's NIGMA 2 going for the 2-2 split versus Kurt versus Triple. But it's a slower approach by them. They know that they cannot be hasty with a rotation like this. There's so much attention will be drawn onto them. Losing already one of their members, Freak, down to the 4K crew.
Unfortunately for Pride, they're on the downhill slope from the likes of POWR, and they still need to rotate into the circle. And it's going to be all the pain coming from POWR from up top. It's going to be only Frozen left up onto his feet. Can he survive a little bit longer as POWR going for the rotate right around him, but leaving him out in the blue trying to met up?
They left that rotation way too late, Monica, but POWR might have failed for the same problem here as they are going full into the zone and attracting the attention of every team around them. They bravely stop. Is this a position that you can stop in? It's wide open. There's under the grass to protect him.
I think the car ran out of gas and they couldn't go any further, but like you said, they're not even in the circle, out in the open, garnering the attention of NIGMA Galaxy and Triple Esports in front of them, so they're going to have to just Houdini themselves somehow to get out of this hillside.
I mean, the only place they might be Houdiniing themselves is out of this game, Monica, because they seem like they are stuck with the blue zone now, encroaching in behind them as is. Will already fall dark, steps back in the vehicle, but is that the right choice? Don't think so. You don't have to worry about that problem for much longer though, because Triple are all over you in POWR and no more.
POWR running out of battery, putting out in 10th position. Now it's going to be Triple Esports and NIGMA Galaxy's turn to get into this circle. And you see Triple Esports really fanning out as the circle is flung even further away from them right onto Falcons and GEEKAY NIGMA Galaxy. They also need to clear out SKYROCKET if they hope to get into this next phase circle.
NIGMA still alive somehow. Triple still there on the south end, but it was a northerly shift, as we say. Falcons still in control of this next phase.
SKYROCKET. We really need to see more from them because they're currently one of the bottom teams, not making last week's Super Weekend, having 15 less matches than everyone else in this lobby, down to only 2. Only 2 eliminations found as well, and having the likes of NIGMA Galaxy on their backs to looking to take them out. I mean, they're at their mercy right now. They're not moving at all. They're just taking the pain from NIGMA.
And SKYROCKET, I'm not sure they want this pain. They're going to need the antibiotics because NIGMA, maybe they need them though. They will fall down first, but it is bullets above their heads to SKYROCKET, and they will be sent sky high by GEEKAY as a vehicle will be blowing up. Now maybe them next to smoke comes through. Maybe we'll allow them to survive for a few more seconds. As GEEKAY let them live as Triple. I'm pushing now next, the full squad, but maybe down to just the third is Ali. Gonna get knocked down out of the blue, and there goes the back line.
This is what GEEKAY does best, right? They set themselves up for third party every single fight that is happening around them. They go for the knocks, they go for the immediate flushes, giving them no chance at all to revive on up, as Hope does find the flush onto Ali. SKYROCKET, they still have Salam. Wanted once more, again, knocked, as now it's going to be R8 pushing into compounds with Falcon, the last compound left in this end circle.
It's the biggest fight for now, but R8 seem to be losing it majorly. SK-Ton is only the last one alive here for their squad. They lose out on those extra members who were already knocked in. SK trying to now revive Bandar, potentially trying to find a position round in the fight as Bandar stepping in towards SK-Ton. And this is because of that fight, allowing GEEKAY to continue that pressure on the main open road itself, continuing to push on Triple. Yawaz will now fall, and GEEKAY racking up those eliminations.
We have 2 different fights going on in the circle. Falcon Esports looking to clean up onto R8, as they still have 2 weaving through the smoke, just barely getting the sights and just flying the sprays through the smoke and trying to get those hit markers as Falcons getting even closer. One does bite the nuts, and it's only Bandar left alive to represent his team.
Falcons making their move closer. Bandar sends out a nade. Will blow up one, blows up himself. And there goes health bar. Desperate attempt by R8, but Falcons will control the compound for the zone. It's gone down into GEEKAY's hands, and now Falcons need to move because Triple is down. The fight for them is kaput, and GEEKAY can focus all their attention on towards Falcons, on towards Rad, who, by the way, still as a solo player, keeps themselves in that third position, who need these points. Rad, can they survive to that second position? Because it's they who need the points over Falcons coming up very close behind them.
This circle has been gifted to GEEKAY on a silver platter, just encompassing them all on there. They have the haystacks, they have the little downhill slope to play in here, and they just need to wait for these teams to try to send it into the circle. Rad is going to be trying to mat it off, hopefully trying to get a second place, but Falcons, they're running out of time. The blue zone on their backs is a huge compelling factor to try to get in. You see the smokes come out. They're going to have to make their move soon.
Desha trying to heal in the blue. Falcons, they make their move. It's a bold move indeed. Falcons, Yusuf as well on the back end as the blue will engulf them, trying to keep an eye out on the high ground, using what they can for GEEKAY, but they found Yusuf, of course, very open on that rooftop as well, and Muhammad striking them back behind, closer into the blue. And Falcons, they just don't seem to crack this, but maybe that nade brings up some success. The middleman of GEEKAY now taken out quickly and assassinately. But Falcons, they need to move in further. Muhammad and Hope still on either end.
Falcons, they have the man advantage now, especially going for the flush onto Satan. They know it is going to be GEEKAY now, getting that confirmation in the kill feed. As Rad, he's out of first days. He could come and play. Spoiler over here. He's looking for anyone that he can, and he does find it. Quickly go for it, but is eliminated. So now we're down to a 2 versus 2. Really just playing into the favor of GEEKAY and getting the numbers even now.
But that's a big knock onto Yusuf. Brings it down to a 2-on-2. So Falcons lose the advantage that they had, and they've already, keep in mind, given their position away slightly with those shots that they took onto Satan. So GEEKAY have a vague idea of where they may be. As a result, have to now lay down the smokes, making it, yes, even more obvious that their position is here, but it's a very risky revive. 28 minutes trying to bring up their third man. In GEEKAY, they are painting a picture of the positions.
If only GEEKAY had some grenades to lobby into that smoke, because it's a dead giveaway that somebody's there. I've seen teams that throw the smokes even further from them while they revive in the open, just to give that little bait to not make it obvious of where they're reviving. Hope he has that last surprise hardcover of the crate landing here, replenish himself. The level 3 is going to be really set up as they start to inch closer and closer to Falcons.
And never alone, Crucial is trying to bait out those shots of GEEKAY, trying to see if they can go through the smoke, but too late, too little. It's Falcons. They saw the GEEKAY member, but they ate up the zone too much. Yusuf will try to return to fire in, but Muhammad doesn't even go down, and Hope is free range to fire through exactly what Falcons wanted the GEEKAY members to do. But now it's down to the 1-on-2. Muhammad will go down. 1-on-1 won't be enough. It's GEEKAY. Use a position, get the chicken dinner, and it's their 6th win of the Super Weekend so far. Monica, they are looking so good.
So good indeed. Their 6th chicken dinner of all the Super Weekends. Falcons, they went down. I mean, they didn't go down without a fight, right? They had knocking members of GEEKAY. It was unfortunate. I think if that lone member of Rad hadn't knocked one of the members of Falcon, it would have maybe still played in their favor, because that player, they got revived, but never really was able to recover and heal all the way up. And then GEEKAY was able to just, even as a 2-man, take out the 3 members of Falcon.
And I like what Falcons were trying to do. Actually, we noted that a smoke could have been an issue for them as we check out those match rankings. But actually, for Falcons, they were using Never Alone on that flank side, Monica, to say, well, if you're going to shoot into the smoke, then you give the noise cues away of your location, and Never Alone is there on the flank to be able to shoot you down. But GEEKAY were very patient, and that's what rewarded them there with that chicken dinner and 30 points, 15 eliminations. And as you said yourself, it just seems to be that every game they're in the right position to make those final few eliminations at the end.
GEEKAY, they put themselves in a corner, but in a good way, in terms of they found that little ridge on the edges of the field to the point where there is nobody that could harass them from their position unless they were way out into the blues, right? Coming from Yasnaya, Falcons did not have any sort of visualization from them, and even the teams on the southern side, like I want to say it was SKYROCKET, like NIGMA Galaxy, also could not see them as well. So they were just sitting nice and pretty and just third partying and taking the fights. And then they just came over the top where they knew the field was completely open. And wow, what a way to start the day off with 15 eliminations.
It is really big, though, for Falcons, for Triple Ferrat, who all needed those points as well on the bottom half of the standings. Triple more so getting themselves even higher now on that first page. But as we do check out those next page of the standings from this first match, it is going to be a few of those teams who need a bit more to show. Is RTJ the only one at the bottom of that leaderboard?
I'm still trying to figure out what happened to YALLA. They were eliminated by NIGMA Galaxy, who, great for NIGMA Galaxy, who ended up with 10 eliminations because of this. But they, I'm not sure. We were just highlighting them of how they were doing so well and being so aggressive. And then they go out and, whatever placement it was and only getting 2 points.
No, I mean, for sure, it's a rotation, right? I think coming down, maybe NIGMA just caught them on a border rotation. It's something we didn't get on camera, but that's the best guess that we can give. I think also for Kurt 12, it is another disappointing game, though, on the glass half empty side look of this match is they really needed these points to get them off on a strong standing. They are in that 19th position, Monica. What
Yes.
is it now that Kurd can do to try raise themselves in a better position for next week?
I think it's just they were a little bit too split up in the kind of early mid game there, where clearly this kind of open fields area right to the north of shelter, there's not a whole lot of compounds, and having two from the warehouses and two in that compound a little bit further away, it was just the people from the warehouse can't really help the ones in the compound because of the wall, because of the buildings and such. So they were left to play a 2 versus 4, I think, of the entire team crashing up onto them.
And as we check out, of course, our best of moves as well, Monica, from that first game. And realistically, I think that it was also R8 who helped actually GEEKAY bring that win, because they did draw a lot of the attention of Falcons over towards them, which was the opposite way that GEEKAY were coming in the zone. So Falcons not looking potentially on that road, because as we said, GEEKAY were very open in their position on that road side, trying to slowly come across, picking off those members. And I think had R8 not been there, maybe there's a world where Falcons could actually win out on this chicken dinner by taking out GEEKAY when they were vulnerable, but because they didn't do so, that's why GEEKAY were able to get a better position. By the time the R8 fight was finished, GEEKAY already had set themselves up for Falcon coming in that zone, with the zone going towards them.
There is so much truth in that, because you saw Falcons up on the rooftops of those blue stacks. If not for R8, we would have had Falcons never alone up on top, watching as GEEKAY is trying to come over the open roads into the field, and probably was able to pick them off, just like GEEKAY was able to pick off Triple Esports trying to rotate into that open field. So I think GEEKAY owes about half of that 1,000 cash money to R8.
Look, I mean, they're still going to keep it themselves. I don't imagine they'll be sharing as caring anytime soon, Monica. But we check out those overall standings regardless of that first game. And GEEKAY, as I would assume here,
Yeesh.
yes, are over 300 points. And we're not even done with the day, Monica. And they are already averaging now, after what, 15, 20, 25, 26 games, 311
Math.
points. That is an
Oh,
insane,
man.
clearly about 12, 13 point average for getting.
So they've now, yesterday, I think at one point they had about a 60-point gap between themselves and second place, which I think it was Twisted Minds at that point in the day. Now they have a 83-point difference between them and NIGMA Galaxy. So even though NIGMA Galaxy went out a little bit early in the match, but they got 10 eliminations. So, I mean, the points are close, right? They just barely
Yes.
was able to fling themselves a little higher than NASR. But you're seeing this starting to solidify a little bit as teams that aren't doing well, like Twisted Minds, are slowly dropping.
And I just want to say the point average here, Monica. It's 14.8 points per game that
Wow.
GEEKAY currently are picking up in these super weekends. That's almost a chicken dinner average game. That's how crazy it really is. And as we check out those second page, though, can't say the same story, though, from the rest of these squads, as POWR are in that 9th position, beginning to get close to that 8th spot, but 4K, the latter, are dropping further down. RTG falling also, but it's Rad coming back up after that game and making, I think, way for also their Falcons, as we said, breaking into that 15th position. And the surprising part is, as we said, they are 15 games
Oh.
less than the only one, but more points than them.
118 points found now, so it just goes to show how much stronger Falcon is doing. Maybe it was just kind of an off, I don't know, off first week that they weren't able to qualify for that super weekend. But I know the team like Falcons can play really well, and we've seen them win out matches, especially the first day of this super weekend. I think if they were able to make the first super weekend, they'd be, well within that top half page of the standing.
Yeah, I think as we check out, as we said, those other 3 spots, of course, 90th minute now falling down because, as we say, they
Ooh.
can't defend themselves in a super weekend. But SKYROCKET also entering up in that location. Kurd 12 still, though, on that last position overall. I think for Kurd, we're looking at a world, right, where I don't think it matters what they do today. Even if they were getting those mega points, Monica, they still need to get that third super weekend. And if you vote at home one, of course, get your own rewards too, not just these other teams. You can check out our Grizzly Bear card collection and join the card collection draw and win outfits. There's a chance to get all the pieces of an item in one go. Monica, I'm looking at that Grizzly Bear and I'm saying, well, guys, there's only a few more days to go. 5 days before this all closes.
Just a couple more days, so get it while you can. This would be a perfect outfit, by the way, to wear into our next match, which is going to be Mirror, because all the Browns are going to just run straight into the sand and no one's going to be able to see you.
Look, I feel like that's such a strategy, and I feel like teams sometimes feel like they need to do this. I am also concerned by some of these teams on the offhand, and I just want to meme about here with what we had, the old Egyptian update, you remember, with the pyramids, and how they have that
Yes,
scarab
the
backpack.
floating pyramids.
You know
Yeah.
how the scarab backpack like reflects the sunlight? Does that not like give away the position? Like, I feel like it's such like
I think
a
so.
bait. It's so cool, but I feel like every time I look at it, like the sun is beaming back like their position, and I just wonder if
Blinding you.
teams can see that.
I know a lot of pro players, if they're just playing their classics or streaming and etc., they have their certain outfits that it's kind of their brand, right? Like, this is my outfit sort of thing that's very flashy, and they like to identify themselves like that in classics and such, and when they're creating content or posting. When you get into the lobby like this, you definitely don't want that to happen, because there's that vague information, that extra layer of, you know, incognito-ness
Yeah.
for the team. So if you knock somebody, you're not going to know, is this 4K, is this GEEKAY, etc. So a lot of times the pro players, they pick a more just very bland outfit.
Yes.
So if another team sees you, you're like, I have no idea who this is, because they're wearing just a plain old black outfit, right?
Right, and indeed, when you see, I think, of course, all of these teams wearing the same outfit, of course, trying to represent the standard PMPL or whatever competition it may be of that season, that also, as you say, makes it harder, because these teams don't really know kind of what they are going to be shooting at in terms of the player that they're looking for. Is we are, regardless, going to be seeing a playing path that goes up to the north side here, Monica, for these teams. And it does actually affect, I think, a couple of these teams down below, such as Valdemar, who some of those squads, as we say, making those lower based rotations, going to struggle once more.
I gotta remind you guys, we have the Highland Wolf curse, where the circle seems to
no,
always
Monica.
fling itself to Liz. He's like, stop!
Please.
He's like, no, he's like, stop reminding everybody of the curses
No,
and the
no,
car
no, no,
mishaps.
no.
And he's like,
Like, I'm nervous. I just feel like the teams just, I don't know if they're sick of it or if they're like too used to it now. Like, I mean, it's there. It's just kind of hard to like also first phase, like side note, avoid
Yeah.
Los Leones as a whole. Like, maybe you get those hard shifts, right? But Los Leones is always going to kind of be there for the first phase for the most part, just because it's
Yeah.
geographical location on Miramar itself.
You know who isn't there is we tend to see the only one landing in Los Leones.
Oh, yeah.
I think they heard you and they were
See,
thinking,
they
this
know.
is where this. Yes, they know this potentially could not be there, but they're hugging that eastern side that looks like it was. They are actually in fact going to Los Leones. So I spoke a little too soon. I didn't see them right in the city, but I think the plane was just not
disappointment.
quite there in
Shame.
the vehicle. Yeah, I was like, I thought they didn't want any more of this. Remember they've had so much action on those red hill mountaintops just to the north of Los Leones between them and NASR. I thought they just didn't want any more of that, but they're glutton for punishment.
I just feel like we're watching him and just like ringing the bell, just saying shame, shame, shame.
Shame,
like...
shame. Well, nobody's naked here, hopefully, unless they're disrobing
I
in
hope
there.
not.
But
Like, keep it
I mean-
PG, guys. Like...
is this PUBG Mobile that we're still talking about,
Yes.
or what's going on?
Better be. Well, I hope they're playing the right game, because they got a game to play. It's Miramar, baby, in GEEKAY down in Picardo here in the middle of that zone. Now, GEEKAY have changed their location. Unfortunately, only going to be playing with 3 players, so it is going to naturally, I think, affect him again here. Also not going to really have to worry, because quite frankly, GEEKAY are so far on the standings, right? 300 points, 311 in total. Is there anyone that can really contest them, even if GEEKAY had like a horrendous day and it just completely didn't exist for the rest of the days today, and the matches today?
So somebody needs to nerf GEEKAY. I
Yeah.
mean, they're
Put it in the
what
patch
did I say?
notes. Like-
Yes, just next patch up those 18.2 patch
Yeah.
notes. GEEKAY Esports from
Yeah.
the Arabia region. But what would I say? 83 points ahead.
Yes.
We've seen teams that can't even get 83 points in all 5 matches. So I think, I mean, it's not going to happen, but like if they weren't even going to play the rest of the matches today, I think they would still be in first place ahead of everyone.
I mean, we sort of saw this from R8 actually last season. And R8, if I go back to their overall standings, I think they got to about that 500 point mark. They were kind of encroaching on 600 points by the end of all their super weekends. It really was a ridiculous number. I also think, on the other hand, though, that you have to look at those final standings. And as great as GEEKAY look right now, and as great as I assume they will continue to look, we also have to keep this up. Because they are showing a lot. They are, of course, getting those points. They're getting that money in their pockets. But by giving away their strategies, is that worth it when it comes to the finals, when teams play at their 150%?
Yeah. We've seen some teams, I mean, they like to gatekeep teams out of the circle, but also gatekeep their own strategies. For example, I'll give you one specific example. We have teams that maybe in Miramar or so, they're aware of, I'll just give an example here. Say Curd 12, right? They always rotate this way down the roadside, and maybe another team nearby, say SKYROCKET, who is just above them in the standings, is well aware of this type of rotation. Oh, there's your glider. There's your glider.
Yes.
I just had to point it out. But and maybe they're well aware of this rotation. Maybe they're not going to camp them on this road now and save that for maybe finals where the points really, really matter and they need to mop up as many points as possible. Maybe wait until the finals to finally gatekeep this road and annihilate all 4 of them in one fell swoop and get those points then. And don't do it too early, because then they're not going to rotate down this road anymore.
And you know what I've not seen? I've not seen people like shoot from the glider. I'm just saying, like, it should be a thing that people should be able to shoot from the air in the glider. I mean, that would make it work. No. I mean, you hear me out. Strategies, Monica. Better than that, because, I mean, RTG, it needs a glider. Get over his mountain side, because it ain't working that well.
The boldness of this team to still get back in this buggy as it flipped over down the hillside and is smoking right now. I would...
They're lining themselves up. They're ready.
I wouldn't come within 10 feet of this thing, because, oh my god, it's still going for animal. This could be so disastrous.
Oh no. Would it be funny if they hit like a box there and it just blew up in their face and RTG lose 2 members? That would not be so good. That would be a pretty yikes moment.
Just spontaneous combustion that would make its way into the highlight clips for sure at the end of this match.
I feel like the side note that like all the people who are behind the cinematography just are so great at capturing those moments. I don't know if they like always just know it's gonna happen, but especially in PMGC last year, it was so savage. Like the rubber chickens just always seemed to catch people crashing their cars at the highest level, mind you, in the global stage.
I really like it when they come into a building, the spectator that goes through like the window of like panning of the overall views. It only happens early game, right? When we're just kind of showing off the map. But yes, shout out to the spectators who give us glorious spectating.
Always remembers. Never forgotten and always respected is all of these teams. Still continuing to move further on into that zone as phase 1 is beginning to have these teams centralized. NASR will find out YALLA and will give us what will be our second blood of the game for now, is we'll pick up their 1 elimination, maybe even looking on to triple. They spy 1 team after their next on this location and say, well, Los Leones in towards La Bendita. We may have a wide split, but we'll make it work.
What just happened? It was NASR. This is the NASR. This is currently the NASR that won the last 2 matches yesterday, right? They're finally showing up. They eliminated 1 member of YALLA that crashed up onto him, and without missing a beat, saw triple esports and got a far distant knock as well, an immediate flush. So NASR already 2 eliminations found, and it was just such whiplash, right? We saw the Tranquil rotating from YALLA for all of a sudden gunshots and getting eliminated.
NASR gonna blow up that vehicle as well. Not gonna risk, of course, the shots coming through from YALLA, and we'll use that as that blockade for that forward position past the compound to keep an eye on them, as YALLA will circumvent themselves back. All three players, of course, losing, as we said, Bomper to NASR just shortly before. Phase 2 also going to close up, though, Monica, and it could prove a big difference because right now we're not really decided where we're going to be going.
Yeah, I feel like no one really knows where the circle is gonna go. You think it's gonna go one way, and then the game just, reverse Uno cards you and goes somewhere else in its
Every
entirety.
time.
Yeah, every single time. But a lot of these teams, they are committing in that central position, as we see just that La Benita, those small, sparse compounds all spread out. Nobody really on that southern side at all. So if it's just down that way, we're gonna have quite the journey up. But if it goes, I was gonna say, now that it's gone a little bit more to the east, there's still some more room on the eastern side, and maybe a team like SKYROCKET that is still on their way rotating is gonna identify this and wide rotate all the way on the eastern side.
There's a lot of high ground positions that are in use potentially by these teams that could prove useful now. I actually think that SKYROCKET, when we talk about this team coming down from the north side, POWR actually leaving a very powerful position on Junkyard Hill. It is further away, but a team like SKYROCKET, who are further away from that zone itself, can use those high ground hills. Also, keep in mind, Graveyard is still very much available to that zone. So teams such as R8 currently there, I expect them to continue to stay there in this second phase because there's no real need to move. We aren't still really decided whether we're going to go down to the side of Zonpala, stay down in Los Leones, or come back towards those North Hills itself. So for now, keeping a compound under lockdown and under your own information is probably the best idea a team can do right now.
The only one always seems to be running, right? I very rarely see the only one engaging onto a fight with another team. Granted, they had 2 down into that warehouse compound. The entirety of Road to Glory came up onto them. So, I mean, strategic from them that they're just able to quickly come on back.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, here. Oh, wait. It's so hard to rotate in Miramar. Yeah, it's like nothing even happened except it's like we're just going to roast this guy, put him on blast,
how I
and
said,
show him
like, with the cinematographers and the vehicles, like, I kind of expected it was going to be something bad. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised it was just a straight landing.
That was really anticlimactic. I was really
almost disappointed.
Is it going to explode? Like, what is the purpose of watching it? No, we're just gonna put this guy on blast, caught in 4K, falling off the mountain.
Like, we're such mean people as casters. I feel like we're always expecting every time it comes to the vehicles that someone is just gonna be knocked out. Like, we're just expecting it, and when it doesn't happen, we're like, why, guys? Like, it wasn't even exciting.
Yeah. NIGMA Galaxy all rotate. So this is the vehicle management that we like to see, right?
Yes.
For them all in a different vehicle, not putting all of their eggs in one basket. The only one coming away from Road to Glory, but finding themselves right on next door neighbors to yet another team, though. So the only one they just can't seem to find anywhere to go. They're just always just driving and burning the gas, trying to find somewhere to go home.
In La Benita Hill is, or should I say Crater, currently has been taken up by a lot of these teams, and on the edge of those the hillside itself is they're not really, of course, wanting to go in at a center point. It's just obvious reasons going to be very difficult to come back out of again around these teams in the center. Is phase 3 is going to be at its close too now as well, Monica, and these teams finishing up, of course, their positions on those rotations seem to be in a fair enough spot. NIGMA still trying to find their final space. Is RTG on looking them?
NIGMA Galaxy, we saw them all rotating from El Pozo all the way through Picado. All of them just hugging that crater area. And I like how no one has committed into the crater of Benita, because that is really just a trap. There's only one easy way in and out. Yeah, but the circle, it is going to come back up, this time to the northeastern side. And POWR, that's quite a position that they have found themselves in.
I mean, this is what we said, right? You've got those hills around Junkyard, and they're still going to be in position. SKYROCKET continue going to take those, but how have they moved down into what is a position I think they should be more together for? I like they were trying to take this advantage of ground and trying to make an area for themselves. However, in a zone like this, where teams are going to be looking down upon you in that center point of the zone, now is the time to regroup and utilize that higher hill that you've got leverage on back towards more of that eastern edge of the zone. Only one trying also to navigate their own dip currently is NIGMA have them pinned on the edge of La Bendita Hill, will also now navigate through, because it is about that fight of which one of these teams get through first to be able to pin the next at the later point in this phase 3.
Yeah, Lord just galaxies away from the rest of his team now, conjoining together, trying to clear out the only one. And this is going to be one of your top teams fighting against a team at the very bottom of the standings. The resources, they're going to be thrown in. Zayad on fire and not in the best of ways as he's down to a lick of health. More utilities coming out as another knock comes out from Freak.
They're already losing the bottom two as well. They just can't catch a break as Luffy will fall and Lush will fall in like dominoes. They are slipping away their life bars to the hands of NIGMA Galaxies. Yad going for something fancy, steps out around Lord, but wastes a few of those shots and is just no more as Lord brilliantly outplays the first fire through and fires back with the 4 eliminations.
At least Zayad had identified where the solo of NIGMA Galaxy was, and he was like, I'm gonna try this first because that's gonna be probably a lot easier than trying to find the 3 members of NIGMA Galaxy descending from the mountainside. R8 though have found themselves in a bit of a pickle because J9, or actually sorry, D7 up on top finds the shots through the smoke, and there's gonna be one more member of Red hiding. Trying to avoid getting shot at, but he is admittedly found out by Prestige.
And it was just a brilliant catch by R8, and Rad just completely no right to be there on the road. R8 just circumventing him. They tried to go for that revive, I believe, of the knock, which was a major mistake. Rad then lose both members, and as a result, will fall down to only the duo that they have remaining. RTG firing themselves through the edge of the zone will lose out on one casualty here, so no one was caught on the edge of SK Tun's bullets with the blue and will lose their life as Falcons, though, claim the elimination.
I'm unsure if that was really the risky play that was well worth it, because finding one knocked out of the blue zone at this stage in the game, there's no saving him anymore. Major Pride having massive fragging games yesterday, unable to close out the matches though, finding themselves right next to Falcon as the circle is going to come in a little bit more into the center.
And Major Pride still their own position on this northern flank, and RTG caught out, and it was really a battle there between Falcons and Major, but somehow RTG got caught in the middle of it, and they will find themselves out of the game as swiftly as that. And Major Pride, now without RTG there, looking for the reposition. A bold rotation by Frozen gets it off for the meantime. Even will find a knockdown onto Damar with the help of Nomi, and that is disaster for Falcons, as they really needed to stop that rotation flank. Don't do so. Yusuf's still busy, occupied by R8. And it just feels like Falcons were a bit split in that kind of idea of who they wanted to target.
The golden Murado from Askan, and not enough to save him. And again, we talked at the beginning about changing your clothes, changing your skin to hide your identity. Using the golden Murado, it's a dead giveaway to every single team that sees it, because hey, who lands in Hacienda? It's the Falcons. We know this is the team, right? So you want to really eliminate those identifying factors and be as incognito as possible.
Didn't think about it like this. Maybe they catch on to it. It's Rad here, finding ourselves down to only one, as Delhap is in an absolute wrong position, currently in the smokes, in behind a few hay bales. Twisted Mites will continue to loot for those shots in, but is a zone that has gone down to Minas Generales, and more of that kind of open field behind the 2 hills of La Bendita, 2 hills of the end of Minas Generales on that eastern side. It's a difficult zone to navigate in a way, and a lot of these teams, Monica, going to be very much playing on the edge, and as a result may catch themselves on these rotations. As you can see, Kurt12 also finding out once of GEEKAY.
GEEKAY are victors from the last match. Now only 3 players, but that definitely did not stop them in the last match to still be able to close out the chicken dinner. They've got the likes of SKYROCKET, 3 of them stopping just shy of them, with one still kind of rotating out on the back end side, and POWR also having their vantage points here. So as the circle converges closer and closer, everyone is going to be able to see each other, and Satan does get taken out.
SKYROCKET Esports finding their extra elimination for themselves, but the work isn't done yet. They still need to get inside of the zone. That is the major problem that they are facing right now. And as GEEKAY, only 3 players, of course, are going to struggle naturally here versus Triple, who, although only have 1 player in, you can see the rest of them slowly closing on that fight. And it's about push here, making a slower play versus GEEKAY, and we'll step back for the rest of the team to come in for that next fight in the future. But right now, Major Pride up on the front doors of POWR.
POWR does actually, I was gonna say POWR got the knock, but it was going to be RT or R8 actually in the distance, giving a little bit of helping hand support to POWR. Yeah, and is gonna be bleeding on out, unable to get revived, as this time Frozen is gonna be left by himself, trying to defend from the likes of 2 different teams swarming all around him.
POWR trying desperately on the end to keep them all at bay, have a fantastic position, but they need to continue to hold it. They need a bit more of that hillside under their control, because allowing now R8, allowing Major to have that control on the edge, forcing Aziz now back too, makes it on the retreat and makes the play back in the hands of Pride, of R8 to push further in. As a result though, the next phase shift, as you can see, it has gone a very heavy shift up to the north side and will not favor those teams still fighting through La Bendita, as it is going to be those hills really that come into control. POWR could even step back further, allow R8 and Major just to catch themselves.
I'm loving this quick, minor disengagement from POWR coming down into the compound to get in the circle, because they know that Major, Pride, and R8 were, third-partying each other on this side, where they're saying, hey, we're gonna let you, work things out, and whoever's still alive in shambles, we're gonna pick you guys off and collect those on those eliminations. So Pride and R, we saw some counters go back and forth. Looks like now Pride is trying to get out of this just like POWR did and come over on the left-hand side of the hill this time.
Major, Pride repositioning. Keep in mind, POWR are still here. Do not forget about them as much as they are retreating. The zone as well, forcing, as we said, those teams on the east. Twisted Mind, still YALLA, still NIGMA coming across, and YALLA in their own fight will potentially lose members here versus NIGMA, but it's that front line that really is a problem. And Major, they make a big move in, but they lose 2 already, as is on that perfect position and down to only Frozen for the meanwhile.
Oh, the major consequences of going for a push like that onto the buggy Triple Esports. So they've now come in where the duo of GEEKAY is at. They've lost 2 players already against the 3 players actually of Triple Esports. Resources all coming out trying to find a knock, and it's doing so heavy of damage, but nothing has happened quite yet.
In GEEKAY, this was the fight we said was going to be slow. Triple, they finally bring those members together. You can see that the members of GEEKAY are falling on those health, but for now, all of them still up. They have even taken down, of course, Shuaz earlier in the fight, will be now not longer, and Triple equalizing that fight, but they will try to catch out Guy. The quick sidestep for the nade keeps themselves alive.
Even as only a duo, remember, this is your team that is flying high on confidence, super strong. We have a knock come out with a little help from Kurd12, as Hope does find the knock onto 1. It's going to be yet another one that bites the dust, and Triple Esports now, 1 left outside onto the wall. Gate with the Groza actually coming in. It's giving TDM nightmares flashbacks, as Triple Esports has now been eliminated by the likes of GEEKAY.
In Kurd as well, catching out an assassin point to SKYROCKET. Salam will be claimed by NASR though, and it's 1 knock into an elimination, and SKYROCKET give themselves away, almost lose their life to NASR as well. Is there now 4K, their own turn to move in? All 4 players will need a few, if not, yes, the only team currently, actually, Monica, who has all 4 players alive, have played it slow. This is their game to try come in, steal the show, away from all the fighting of R8, of Major Pride, of POWR. Is Kurd12, though, they're going to be the first to fall. You can see that R8 making that push, trying to be swift about it, but Alhahe refuses to fall. The solo for POWR hanging on on for dear life as they move around. Catchare on the climb animation, but POWR Esports has nowhere to go. It's Major Pride clean out R8, but 4K are here to say hello to the finish of the fight.
4K finally coming in at the 9th hour, coming in 2 eliminations found so far, but it was just those 3 trifecta teams all fighting together as now POWR left running down the hillside, gives a knock right in return, but is eventually traded out. 4K still the kings of this mountain as they came on the back of the shambles of Pride, POWR, and R8 and are able to clean up onto the highest vantage point as they're looking down onto now NASR and GEEKAY out in the distance.
And 4K haven't had a game like this potentially in a position where we can get a chicken dinner since the first day of the first Super Weekend moniker. Now they sit themselves, all of their players still up in the game. Anaconda will be revived, and it's up to them, their own fate, to get into the zone to steal this game. Phase 6 so is still very much in control of a few of these other squads as Falcons flip out, but maybe a problem here as some course they did fall out earlier. I mean, Falcons, I like the style, okay? I like the style in a zone this late. Gotta give it to them, they probably made a big mistake.
There's no escaping the spectators. If you make a mishap with a vehicle, you will end up in the replay or the highlight reel. So now all these teams are probably like, oh, like I don't really want to drive any vehicles anymore because it's definitely going to be shown on stream. Gate, Groza in hand, red dot, trying to take those long distance shots, and it just wasn't quite enough. So we're down to only 2 Highland Wolf, 4K with a full man team, and YALLA only down to 50% capacity.
YALLA, they don't even have the zone in their hands. They need to move in, and 4K just have the numbers advantage. YALLA, they have 9 eliminations, but it's got to be a fantastic finish if they want this chicken dinner for themselves. 4K looking firmly in the driver's seat when it comes to this second game.
At 5 eliminations, which is slightly low for we see teams that do get the chicken dinners. One able to just suck in his breath and able to hide behind this tree, but it's going to be found out this time by Sanji from YALLA. Now turning the favors a little bit more in their favor. Now it's going to be a 3 versus 2, but 4K, they still have the great spot. They have the circle up on top and are just waiting for YALLA to have to move because in just a couple of seconds, the blue is going to envelop.
They get Anaconda before, crucially, though, Smoke Road was laid out, and they could make that move to make the revive. Onanok, though, crucial position here for YALLA. If Onanok goes down, 4K really are out of this game. It's up to Onanok, the solo player. He is on the edge of the zone to buy that space, to buy that position. They have the information of where YALLA is. The utility being forced out though by YALLA, and they are coming together as that duo, and it's up to the surprise factor for 4K.
YALLA stacking 2 onto each other, more strength in numbers, hoping they can kind of single out some of the members of 4K. But Golden, he's going to be up at the top. They're so fanned out, 4K, that they have so many different angles that YALLA, they really have no room to breathe at all, and they're just really scratching their heads. What are the ways that we can get in the circle all alive and try to close out this game? But the blue, it's starting to move in now, and time is a ticking.
And 4K making that move down to the tree line themselves. Golden moving left and right. Onanok also closing in. They are beginning to choke YALLA's position away from them. The zone is in the open, and YALLA continue to need to pull out a position for themselves. They find a short hillside for themselves, but you really do think that this 4K's game, here they are sending out a nade. That one looks like it could land if they can find the accuracy of it. Goes wide, and Golden almost takes one themselves, but YALLA already under pressure to defend their position in the blue zone behind them. Makes no favors. His life in amongst 2 difficult spots, but there's no escape, and despite 4K, a close fight, is 4K who come out on top.
4K was a team right in the middle of the pack. They started this day started this game in 10th position in the overalls for Super Weekend. So this is very, very critical of them to get a chicken dinner, and it's definitely going to shoot them up higher in the overall standings. 4K, I mean, we saw some moments of glory from them from the first week in the Super Weekend, and then we didn't really see that much from them at all. They've just been kind of hovering on that bottom half. So great win found out from them.
And for 4K, they needed those points, as we said. They've been falling slowly on that leaderboard for now since their pole position at the end of that first day. Now in 10th, that will boost them up after that match to get themselves potentially higher here. And I think also, as we check out those match rankings, again, the psychological aspect of that moniker too, where 4K getting that confidence back in themselves that they're capable of getting these points.
We know that 4K can play well, any team, right? Any team can play well if they have the confidence. It just shows how a team, if they're not playing well, if they don't have the momentum on their side, how can they come back from that? So clearly 4K, they've regrouped, reconsidered how they're going to go about these matches, and have now come out with a chicken dinner. 7 eliminations found, but really to highlight YALLA, 10 eliminations, the highest fragging team in the lobby.
And YALLA, who have looked, I think, very steady through this tournament so far. In Monica, I think that for a consistent team like YALLA, we are looking now at keeping that up, at keeping that through the long haul, as we said, at a tournament in towards the finals, as they are making a name for themselves in a position for those finals contention. Is also keep in mind GEEKAY there in first to lay another fair solid game for themselves, despite the fact that they played with only 3 players.
Only 3 players, and NASR that's right within that kind of top standings as well. So they've also got a fair game that they, amount of points that they've gotten here. But I want to see the second half from that match, right? I want to see how the teams down below fared, and we're seeing some pretty low numbers here, and we have teams that did well in the previous match, like Rad, go out with only 0 points.
Right, and I think that's what we are really eyeing up on, is Rad needing that consistency, really, to be able to get themselves up on that leaderboard overall. Unfortunately, consistency in the wrong way is also a factor for RTG, and the only one who really haven't had that much of a great game. Got to see if they can keep that up, though, in a better form on Erangel next. But before we go there, we're going to be checking out those best oppo moments and take a quick break. Welcome back, everyone, here to what will be a wrangle in the middle of our final Super Weekend 2 final day with myself, Pilot Wolf, and Monica. But it's not just us here, of course, the Upper Renault 7 down below with the upgraded performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Upper Renault 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile, Middle East, and Africa Esports 2022. And of course, you know it, you need that drink with your phone for the energy when you play PUBG Mobile. But what else than Monster Energy, the official energy drinks partner, Monica, for the tournament?
Energy all the way around, whether you're drinking, whether you're playing on it, or whether you're here watching us cast PMPL Arabia. We're so excited to get into the very third match. It's going to be the halfway point of today. Remember, we are coming off 4K. Confidence running super high after that chicken dinner in Miramar.
Right, indeed, and 4KB needed that confidence boost to themselves. He had dropped down 9 positions over those last 5 days, Monica. So they really, I think, needed the points to, as we say, also get themselves up on the standings too. But there are those teams that don't have that confidence, perhaps, that don't have that consistency in the right way, as we said we were looking for. And the only one, RTG, just don't seem to, I think, find their foot right now in terms of the Super Weekend currently.
4K was actually, after day one of the very first Super Weekend, if you can recall, they were in first place in Super Weekend. So from there, it's just been kind of a fall from grace. So maybe this is their start of their redemption arc, right? As we head back into Miramar, or sorry, head back into Erangel. I'm getting my math mixed up. But I'm really hoping that they can come off that win and utilize it and go
Yes.
for another big game here.
And I think those wins very important for all of those teams, these points on the bottom of the standings for those squads, because it is now 3 more games before they have to re-qualify in for this next opportunity. And we're at the end of this second Super Weekend where, yes, the pressure is high, but it will certainly not be as high as next Super Weekend. So trying to put yourselves in the best position possible, or trying alternatively, Monica, if these teams are high on those standings, to ensure that they qualify for the finals through this Super Weekend alone.
Yeah, if I was a team like GEEKAY, right? Nothing to lose here right now. There's still 80 some odd points above second place.
Oh
They
yeah.
can afford to be a little bit more, hey, loosey goosey, not to the point where it's debilitating them, but more like, hey, let's experiment here, or hey, I'm gonna have this person, in this, we're gonna try this new split here, a little bit more spread out than we're used to, because they can afford, if they lose 2 players, that's okay. They still 80-point buffer between them and NASR right now in second place, that they can use this as kind of a simulation for finals where
Exactly.
they're gonna have to restart their points.
And I think for GK, I would be a bit weirded out, honestly, to see them really, really try and bring out new strategies, because giving away too much of the good strategies that they maybe have in their books does make no sense. They are already, I
Yeah.
think, one of these teams, Monica, qualified for those finals, we could argue, at 300 and ridiculous number points that they've gotten so far.
328. So that 28 is the ridiculous part of it. But you can also, of course, see the 27 matches played on that first half games, and then you can see the ones at the bottom. I mean, of course, they're going to be at the bottom
Right.
with fewer matches played, but really want to shout out those teams that, have played less, right? And they're higher than teams that have played more than them.
And I think also you had to keep in note that when we looked at those standings overall, it was actually the fact that some of those teams have played less matches but are higher than other teams. As we said, Falcons, one of those who are really making a name for themselves in this second Super Weekend. But it's an unfortunate start, regardless, for POWR, as they just will find themselves shot at by Enigma Galaxy. Wrong place, wrong time, and wrong place, wrong time also for Kerr12, as Desha steps out with a Uzi, almost falls down, as now the chase begins. Kazem's done a Uno reversal, as you would say, and completely debated the opposite way.
I mean, we love to see the early game fights, right? And we love to see the in-game action. I think this is a very nice kind of follow-up to yesterday, where we saw so much just nothing happening the first 15 minutes or so, which is okay, right? Teams are setting themselves up. They're taking the time to have some quality rotates and quality scouting to the point where they don't engage at all. So you like to see it. It gives us a little A little appetizer, right, for the later game.
And POWR, I'm not sure what they're doing currently, but there is Karte on the South Island there, and they are very far away, Monica, from the rest of their players. Aziz and Al-Hahi, just for reference, up towards that Gatka field side.
Yep.
There's not going to be an easy crossing either, quite frankly, for Kante, because you could go across the bridge, but also Triple D are there lying in wait.
I
So
love this.
he's
I
got a
love
little
this.
plushie. He's got Godzilla there
Godzilla.
behind him. I mean,
he's
he's
disappeared.
got a friend, right? He's got a friend in the Godzilla.
I love that the spectators have found this as what to show, and his little Godzilla like, no, wait for
Catch
me!
up.
Like, where are you going? You're running too fast. I only have little legs.
I just feel like it's so adorable. Like, ever since they added a Godzilla, like, I mean, you could still go for
King
like
Kong.
the eagle, right? I mean, okay, but
Baby
King Kong.
Kong. Baby
But
Kong as
to
well.
be
Yeah.
fair, like, I don't know. I like King Kong, but on the other hand, I just feel like Godzilla is just so cute and adorable. It's ridiculous.
I mean, there was the whole thing of, you know, Godzilla versus King Kong, right, in game. But let's take a look back real quick. We have, oh no, it's all gone wrong for these
Oh, yeah.
teams. I mean, it's an Uzi, right, and he's just no sightlines at all. He's just, hey, I'm gonna, you know, put all my bets and then maybe I can get a knock here. But I think that was just kind of really opportunistic.
And side note as well,
Optimistic.
this zone too, Monica, has gone in practically the same position actually we saw yesterday, where phase one did have, of course, the Sanhok Island there in control, but has for the most part also gone back up to the mainland. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see another Gatka finish, or teams more so really position around this location. Instead, our teams may be going to try to adapt to their strategies, considering that what we've seen before may be also predictable on the other hand.
Team that doesn't need to adapt at all is definitely going to be GEEKAY. I mean, people are probably like, we're tired of hearing about GEEKAY because all they do is just win, which is really great for them. But it's much more interesting to hear about a underdog, you know, coming out on top. But GEEKAY, I think, is just, man, if there's any team to study for any of the teams in the lobby, it's going to be GEEKAY. So all eyes on them. And like you said, hopefully they're not giving away too much of their strategies for later in this tournament.
Also, I think the same card follows down on some of these other squads who are behind, of course, GEEKAY. I mean, you look towards the likes of NIGMA, right? Of also these teams inside the top 8. For the most part, if they can pull off more good games today, they should realistically be able to qualify. The only other concern that I have for them is, do they give away too much, as you say? Because I feel like now you are looking for that money. And on the alternative to that, Monica, when you do look for that money, you do want to try with those strategies. So it's about how wide and variety of styles that these teams have and how much they've got in their books to really try to perform still at a continuous level through such a reminder of a long-haul tournament.
Long haul tournaments. We used to have tournaments where it's, hey, only a couple days, right? And then or you know, it's very short tournaments, and it's very plays into that RNG factor of, you know, looting, of what kind of circles you're given and such. So having these long kind of drawn out tournaments, it's good in that it kind of balances it all out, right? Like, hey, maybe I had bad luck these certain matches, but then I had really good luck these matches to balance it out, and then we're able to see who actually has that skill level, that intelligence of being a top team in the region. And 4K, they showed a glimmer of hope, right, with their last chicken dinner in Miramar. Let's hope they can have a great game once again.
YALLA Esports continuing to move themselves into a better position. Of course, a lot of these teams fighting on the edge so far. For now, I don't think teams are going to focus too much on those center points. I would be much more interested in where we're seeing the likes of Triple, right? And also Twisted Minds focusing their positions. I actually think that for the side of Triple, they've got an excellent outlook on that peninsula coming down onto the South Island. I also actually like that Twisted Minds are still positioning around this hillside just beyond that, but ready for the fight on teams coming in on that hill past, as we said, that peninsula that Twisted Minds have, such as NIGMA coming down from that Pachinki edge.
So Triple Esports, they're in the kind of general area where we would normally see a Conqueror as they see Twisted Minds, Ragnarok. I mean, is that going to be a buggy spin out vehicle mishap that's going to end up in the replay? We shall see. But Twisted Minds landing in the farm area, able to at least stay out of reach right now from Twisted Minds, but they have just barely rotated into this circle and just have a foot in the door. The circle's still a little bit more on the western side from them.
In Twisted Minds, Arkan are now kept themselves at compound as phase 2 will close out around, of course, these teams. And for the most part, everyone's still very normal rotation. There's nothing too insane apart from, of course, Kante beginning that rotation back up towards the rest of their team. It would be a bit of an unfortunate decision if it would go down towards the South Island. I don't assume so. It's likely to go to this mainland, and for the most part, yes, it does. And we're going to see again, very similar phase 2, Monica, where it did look like this yesterday too.
Okay, so NIGMA Galaxy, they have it in Pachinki, right? But for some reason, NIGMA Galaxy just can't seem to play center. Like, they really like playing that edge side. And it worked out well from the first Erangel match today, right? They got decently up high with a lot of, I think, 10 eliminations, right? But here they are going into the center. So I hope this works out for them, but we usually don't see NIGMA Galaxy playing that very central position.
And I think for NIGMA, it's an interesting style because it is much more of a non-regional style that they play, where they are much more focused to the styles of that of China or that of Southeast Asia, where they do play on that far edge and they do try to make as much space possible for them coming in later on the rotations. Now, NIGMA, I think that they are slowly adapting to this regional play of being dead center or trying to be as close as possible to that point. I do think that they shouldn't abandon their morals. And I think for the moment, NIGMA, as long as they play to the edge sensibly, it's a very fair objective in terms of this playstyle to play. And there's nothing wrong with playing away from that center. However, the problem that we've been highlighting is crucial. That teams are overlooking them around Pachinki. And then they get stuck in a city where teams are around them with the capability of looking down upon them and keeping them in that space.
Teams that really don't get stuck is like GEEKAY. I find them in one position in a minute, but they always have an escape plan. They always seem to be able to get out of a sticky situation. I really cannot remember a time GEEKAY was taken out way too early beyond, Sanhok, where they just kind of committed themselves to that fight. But other than that, they're really good at being very scrappy, being very, hey, we get knocked, go for, really setting themselves up to a point where they can go for the revive and just reposition themselves because they have that information. They're able to keep everyone alive. So time and time again, I know we keep saying it, but GEEKAY is just such a contender in this lobby.
And I really want to see what we can do, not only, of course, in these Super Weekends, but in the finals. I feel like just a solid roster coming in. And I think also credit, always not to just the players, but to clearly the coaching staff and the staff behind the scenes too. We have to remember that aren't seen in these games, but clearly have an impact on creating this roster and making sure that it comes to success. Because often, sometimes we do see that actually 4 players all coming from separate teams, Monica, can not work out sometimes too.
Sometimes, yeah, teams that you'd think, hey, we're going to pick the 4 strongest player in the region, slap them on a team together, and see how they do. But sometimes it doesn't work out right. And what's not working out right here is going to be Triple Esports. Actually getting a trade with the Overwatch in the back, but I mean, it's 1-for-1 right now, Highland Wolf, on this plateau area. And
for 4K, it's a solid fight for now, but as they will grab down Ali, Clever will have to now move back, as cannot continue to push onto that location. But as Triple have to push back, it is now 4K on the oppression, as they will look for the compound for the meantime, and they will look to get a position on the edge of his zone.
Bringing the momentum from the last game, being very, very aggressive here and driving actually teams away. This circle has come now back, this time to the east, hovering onto Pachinki. I think that Pachinki Hill just to the south of the city is going to be a major contending point, as we already have the likes of GEEKAY and some other teams taking up residence there. So everyone else is just kind of crammed into these little compounds that Triple Esports has found after losing one.
And Pajinki, of course, still a major location. And I actually love the position of NASR taking up that church side currently. So we'll have that ability to stay outside relatively of the city itself, but still be able to come back in towards it if required, on top of having, of course, that outlook onto the entire city itself from that high ground church position.
Hill, Curd 12 now taking their spots on the east side, just out of sight from GEEKAY. Now just parking their cars in a way that you want to keep the resource alive, right? And they see a lot of extra vehicles down there, like where did these come from? But NIGMA Galaxy finding onto Triple Esports Curd 12, though, just hearing the cars, that's going to be Twisted Minds. After losing one player early on, they're just scouting this, right? He's like, was anybody over here? Oh, I heard gunshots, met on very unwelcomely, and goes right back to the plateau from where he started.
In teams very centralized, but crucially none of them are really wanting to go for that engagement. Very sporadic still in the positions to where the hills do block out that potential engagement between each of these squads. And credit there to, I think, all of these centralized teams still with a map knowledge, Monica, to avoid such a scenario.
These trench areas, this was added in the very, I don't say recent, but the last big Erangel update, right? So this makes this field so much more of a playing spot. Before it was just kind of, you know, little dips in the road that you really couldn't hide behind at all. So this is definitely a go-to spot now, kind of a destination of sorts that teams like to take. That I mean, you can't really see it from Pachinki, from where the only one is, and they've kind of bunny hopped their way into the city more as GEEKAY has come down from the hill and now into the city of Pachinki.
And Twisted Mind's going to lose one to the hands of the only one, but won't be too much to consolidate for the only one, as they won't be able to find the elimination. Gets back inside the building, but GEEKAY going on a subterranean adventure as Satan will make their way slowly through the tunnel. In part, they can't, as duly so, inside of that chopsticks position. But for the meantime, I do wonder about all of these teams, Monica, on the edge, because they still have a lot of movement in. They are risking, of course, that the zone isn't going to go to Pachinki. On the alternative side of that, Pachinki, if it moves away from this location, it's going to be so infamously difficult for all of them to escape out of that city.
Yeah, it's open fields all the way around. If you leave too early, everybody's watching. Your circle is going to be right dab center. So Twisted Minds, they've had that warehouse in the middle of the open fields, and good for them because they are down one member, remember? So they're not quite as high fragging power as like a team like GEEKAY, like some of the other full man teams. Curd 12, I believe, also lost one, but they have the high vantage point of the hill. But everyone needs to brace for impact. And you see all the vehicles are starting to mobilize, and people are looking to crash on in and carve out a foothold for their own.
Curd 12, also a great position currently where they have the hillside to themselves. As you said, Twisted Minds, they are busy in a compound. So actually for Curd, they have more free reign here over a lot of these other teams coming in from that more south and westerly side. As YALLA also coming in from that north end in the skirmish versus POWR, but POWR holding back for now, but they are losing members one by one, and Kante will be the next to fall as Hahe already out of there as YALLA score what could be only their first elimination. I thought they would have 3, but it seems like those eliminations have been sucked up elsewhere.
Lahe, POWR, they do well in Erangel when it's over in that GEEKAY area where they drop. But I mean, this is just punishingly out of their comfort zone over onto Pachinki, and they just didn't get there fast enough. And like YALLA, like all the teams around them are going to want to pick off these eliminations. We've got Bompe to be knocked down for Major Pride coming in from the North Georgia Pole area.
Yeah, they stole one of those eliminations clearly away from YALLA to get themselves at 1, but they are looking for much more than that. It will be the second knockdown onto YALLA, and down to the only 2 members. Sanji cannot fire back onto Frozen. Now stepping back up as Frozen with a low ground has the advantage for the now. Will be able to find a pre-fire on into them, and now YALLA Life trying to do the same, but he's all in the zone and there's no one to help him. Nomi goes full in on top, and he can't swap cars because Major Pride already have it locked down, and YALLA down in 15th again.
Man, Nomi was just really, I'm just gonna go in guns a-blazing, but I guess wheels a-blazing in this case, and sending the car right into the face and actually lobbied his enemy up into the air and goes for the ultimate finish onto this team. Curd 12 though, they're having their eyesights on NIGMA Galaxy, and unfortunately for NIGMA Galaxy, they didn't stay in their city of Pochinki, which they usually do, and now they're caught way out of the circle, having this fight against R8 in the blue.
And R8, they are a slow approach here, but I worry for them. They're going to lose Bandar. R8 is barely keeping themselves alive. Enigma, Raouf is still there, but Raouf goes to the wrong movement at the wrong time. Now we'll have to rely on Hamodi, but look here, Hamodi's position cannot step up too far because Major Pride are also there, and you see now the dilemma of both of these teams down below as Major encapsulates them all. R8 though, the fadeaway shot will take down Nigma with them, and both of them take away.
They seem to have forgotten about R8, but it was definitely a lose-lose situation for both teams because they are found out by the Blue Zone and the likes of Major Pride. So both these teams out of the lobby. Everyone keeping an eye onto that circle as 4K, the winners from the last match, now debilitated from SKYROCKETs up on the hillside above them, and only 2. So I guess they're down to only 2K players left for this Pochinki Hill.
And it was a big shift from that Pochinki Hill. It's gone kind of more towards that eastern side, so exiting away from the city. Now a lot of those city members will have to escapade onto the edge, but coming down from that more southeastern side, it's much more open of a distance compared to the opposite exit of Pochinki on that road, and will leave a lot more difficult rotation for the likes of Only One without vehicles there. Now Twisted Mind separating out over that hillside entrance will be able to capitalize on that, alongside also Rad already set up again in that position to do so. And for the likes of the Only One GEEKAY, this is much more a fight about who can survive in the city for now before this zone encapsulates both of them.
Such an interesting rotation from the Only One, because they were out in the field, out in the trenches, right? And instead of staying in that kind of open field area, they committed to the city, where it ended up shifting off of them into. So GEEKAY is just going to capitalize on this one. 4 eliminations found so far. A weak the Only One, down to the only 2 left from their team, and they're sending 1 out into the field. They have a airdrop, but what more could GEEKAY need in this match now, as they're really setting themselves up so well? And this is definitely Erangel, their favorite match to play, actually.
Well, they still need an exit is what they need, Monica. They aren't out of the woods just yet, and they need to get away into that zone. They get rid of NAR, and with that will be the rest of the Only One, and they cannot solve the problem of GEEKAY potentially now trying to find a position forward. You see that Geith has that shack. All of them will look for that location, as it is the only spot they currently have inside a zone that remains in cover.
While the teams around them are all fighting, is allowing GEEKAY just to literally run in the open across the field to get further into this circle. SKYROCKET though, they find the shots onto Road to Glory, and they do take out Unknown. So I mean, the Road to Glory, it ends here as Major Pride now garnering the attention of Curd 12 on Pochinki Hill.
Major Pride still outside though on that zone. Triple also outside too. SKYROCKET is completely now cut off that south entrance in. They will take away Triple's entrance points as Major, they're trying to cluster up, trying a different strategy with the numbers they have available to them. But Curd 12, they're doing the exact same as Sky. They are blocking them away. Yen will, but on their own, going in now one by one like lemmings, like lambs to the slaughter. It's 4 eliminations all over to Curd, with the last one Twisted Minds for that and picks it away.
I don't know if that slaughter was halal, because that was absolutely manslaughter. Major Pride, they had all 4 up. They went down so quickly. GEEKAY, they're just spreading out into the fields now. The circle is down onto the hillside now this time, but they have Twisted Mind all stuck within the shack. They crashed up onto it now as they find an opening knock here. It's going to be only 1 left up on the hillside, so far away from them, as GEEKAY is just, I mean, there's nothing stopping this war path that GEEKAY is currently on.
In Twisted Minds, they are now busy, yes, fighting, yes, have 5 eliminations. On the other hand of that, though, Monica, they are still outside that zone. They are the furthest team now to getting inside of that zone. In Dami, it is all about survival. They have no idea, as you can see, where these players currently are situated. And they cannot rely on that major point inside, as it will go down there alongside Dami finally found. And Twisted Minds bring us into our final 5. Is SKYROCKET still in control, I was going to say, but maybe just cast a custom, as they will lose a nade to 1, and Cur12 doing a bit of bowling as they roll down a second.
It's a tale of disaster for SKYROCKET, as a grenade is going to, actually from Triple Esports, to steal the elimination away from Cur12 from up top, as Push continues to wrap around the bottom of this hill, knowing that he has a bleeding out SKYROCKET rip just to his right. The smokes are going to give him a little bit of cover, but Cur12, their attention is going to be stolen away from GEEKAY on the opposite side of this hill.
Crucial, of course, for Sky, that they need to try to survive Rad as well. These are the two teams, Monica, that really are looking for these points in these final few matches. Sky not looking so hot, though. Only 1, and they look like they may be malfunctioning. Rip, though, sends down a nade onto Push. Won't find it. Goes wide and goes short, too. Push still gets behind the vehicle for now, and the bullets you can see are keeping Rip down also on the absolute lowest dip. The rest, though, those looking for the fight is GEEKAY, and as you said, they found their angle, Monica. We have 13 eliminations, and they're looking for their next chicken dinner of the day.
Just to give perspective, they won the one before with 15 eliminations to get 30 points, so they're really trying to beat themselves. The only thing they're competing with right now is themselves in their past performances. GEEKAY is just dominating this lobby. The only team with 4 players still left alive, as everybody is in shambles. Rad, only 2. Everyone else is solo, Highland.
And I don't know how GEEKAY keep doing it, but 4 out of the 5 last games is looking like it could be their next chicken dinner, and they might just score all of these Erangel wins. Is Triple, they'll be the next to fall in Rad. They're outside the zone. It's GEEKAY who have control. And Rad, who has sat there patient, may look for a pity elimination point, but they cannot move further. Yes, they have the buggy, but to what extent when you have a tiger of GEEKAY staring down at your head?
I mean, GEEKAY, they can do the math. They see 6 players remaining in this match. There's 4 of us, so clearly there's only a 2 on over this way. They had already given out their positioning with their shots before, and they're lobbying the smokes. I mean, they're outside the circle. This is just, I mean, there's such a low percentage chance of Rad making something out of it, as they send Satan out wide in GEEKAY. I mean, they're trying to collect up on all of the eliminations in this match.
Still looking, as we said, for those final points. Still happy, brave, but inconclusive here result for that revive. It won't be able to happen. Hope's coming around the other end. And Monica, it's the end of days for Rad. GEEKAY getting through with a fizzle, their 4th chicken dinner, as we said, out of 5 recent Erangel matches. They look absolutely unstoppable on these green rolling hills.
Oh man, someone really, really needs to put in a complaint, you know, nerf GEEKAY Esports ASAP before this tournament is over. And I just want to point out, Rad, that was the 2nd time today that they just kind of flew in on the tailcoats of GEEKAY, let GEEKAY just mop up everybody, right? And they just slide in, you know, incognito, ended up in a 3rd place finish. And they only had one elimination, actually. So they just really just, you know, GEEKAY still left. We just, you know, stay low, stay quiet, and just let them just take it. And then we just come in for placement.
Look, I mean, as we check out those match rankings, Rad, of course, needed those points. So did SKYROCKET, though, to be fair, and both of them getting that 2nd and 3rd place, respectively. You know who's on top, though, GEEKAY. But it's these teams, as we said, down below, like Cur, too, Monica, who need those points. 10 for them, but it needs to be much more to be able to secure those spots in the survival point of the top 16.
I believe 18 eliminations the most that any team has won with this entire tournament. I think the closest was Major Pride with 16
POWR had 20,
in a chicken dinner
but
way
it
before.
was...
They had 20? When?
Yeah, early
Did I miss? Was I not
this
guessing
league,
that one?
Yeah, that was
yes,
me
I think
in
I wasn't. Okay.
Imperium. Power had that
Okay.
like Erangel game. It's like something with Erangel, Monarch. I don't know what it is, but these teams just seem to have the most explosive games there.
Okay, most I've seen, I guess I can
Yeah.
change my wording a little bit, but okay, 20 from Power, but some of these teams are just really just playing out of their mind.
I mean, look, as we check out that last page too, I'm kind of suspecting that we're going to see these same teams on that bottom half. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been unfortunate to see their power. We talk so highly about them, but we get nothing when it comes to this third game overall. And YALLA paired down below again, only about 15th position to show 1 point. And the rest of the rotations, I think, were really the key problem for a lot of these other teams coming further in. I mean, you saw, of course, the likes of R8, of NIGMA, and their issues, for example, taking out each other.
NIGMA, Galaxy definitely kicking themselves right now because they did something different here, where the circle, it popped on up. It was a little bit more centered on kind of the GEEKAY-ish area, still encompassing Pochinki though, but usually they still stay in Pochinki for 10-15 minutes before they start rotating, and here they just immediately went out into the field of GEEKAY just to have to try to claw their way back in. I think if they had stayed in the city, they could have been a much better match for them. They could have even won potentially, but it just, I mean, hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, look, to be fair, it was a difficult zone. It was a difficult few shifts for these teams. I think the GEEKAY still played it very phenomenally, but as we get to see the GEEKAY replay, as it were, of our best upper moments from that third game, we will give you a short break where we'll be back with Sanhok.
Icy boy, frozen soul, suicide doors are looking gorgeous though. Icy boy, frozen soul, suicide doors are looking. Icy boy,
two more games here, Monica. And it's Sanhok for our last day here, the second Super Weekend. And of course, myself, Highland Wolf, alongside you. But it's set down to the Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G with upgraded performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno Pro 7 5G. And the designated smartphone for PUBG Mobile Middle East Esports and also Africa Esports 2022. But Monica, too, keep in mind it's a Grizzly Bear card collection, and there's only 5 more days to be able to catch up on those results. Actually, no, four more days, Monica. It's coming by the minute. Less time where you have to join the card collection draw and win outfits. There's a chance to get all of those pieces and item in one go. Keep in mind, so be sure to get those games in and get that Grizzly Bear outfit while it counts. Is, as we said, Sanhok, the jungle map, though, up next.
You know your favorite content creators, influence, pro players are all going to be going for this outfit. So definitely go get it to match them as too. But Sanhok, what do we always see in Sanhok? It's going to be GEEKAY versus YALLA in boot camp. I mean, we dabbled into, are they still going to go there or is somebody going to finally leave? So, I mean, we shall see in a few short minutes.
Look, I guessed forward thinking here, Monica, that maybe after that R8 POWR disaster for both YALLA and GEEKAY, that maybe both of them, or one at least, will decide to go somewhere different. I think, as you said, right, that YALLA on one hand do need those points. However, I mean, GEEKAY certainly have the onus on them to say, well, we have everything so far. We're in that pole position. And I don't think, as you said, that they're going to be the ones to move.
Sometimes I see teams that, I mean, we always see contesting in certain drops, right? It doesn't really matter what map, what place,
Yes.
but sometimes it carries on into different maps. You know, the resentment, the competition is there. And GEEKAY, I think they could, I mean, this is really thinking way ahead of it, but potentially GEEKAY could, you know, they're so far ahead in standings. Maybe they want to sabotage YALLA on a different map, right? Just to pressure them to like, hey, give us boot camp because we want it. Otherwise, we're going to find you on every single other map and really play spoiler for you.
I mean, look, when you play a fight so long with a team who drops down in Paradise Resort and a team who drops down in flipping the top of Tatmok can come down and third party you, there's a problem, Monica. There is
Yeah.
a serious problem. And realistically, YALLA and now also GEEKAY, they need to make a decision very swiftly in today. Are we going to continue this style where these faraway teams still have the capability of messing us up? Or are we going to just give this position away and move elsewhere? Because right now, particularly in that first phase, YALLA much more in advantage to get finished looting, get to that bootcamp hill, and then contest GEEKAY at a much better later point.
Well, the first step in recovery is admitting there's a problem, and it looks like we're gonna have the problem start for one. I can't tell exactly which
YALLA.
side it flew into. Ooh, that's a turn of events, but we still have Pride, this time landing right in the city of Kampong versus Falcon, DBS in hand as a grenade does blow up in his face.
And Falcons is always in their own issue, of course, down towards Kampong. Major Pride once more will look for that flush. And a Molly, an excellent first utility to be able to single out Yusuf, but steps outside now of the building. But it's all like frozen, and the rest of Major
Oh.
Pride, such as rules that they are, will find the one elimination. There was one back, but it's Falcons Tamar with the long shots against him by Milky Way. That is a disaster point for Major Pride. Now needs to send Never Alone in. They will get that revive off, but Major Pride is very, very swift on this punish, and they are looking for Frozen on that elimination too.
I feel like Major Pride was just encompassing the
Wait, Frozen
theme
has
of just
nothing.
he always keep them guessing, right? Because they landed outside of Kampong, let Falcons have some security in the city, and then what just happened here? It's just going all wrong for them. But I mean, they give a knock and return. I think Falcons just gonna disengage from this. But anyway, Falcons they Pride seemed to give them a false sense of security in the city of Kampong yesterday, right? They didn't land in the city. They landed kind of out in the hillsides. And you saw how split up Falcons was. They were thinking, oh, you know, we drove Major Pride out, we got the city all to ourselves, and then this time around they sent one in the city, and Major Pride sent all 4 into the city.
And it's one down knocked for GEEKAY, but it's one eliminated in his second knocked for YALLA. They're trying the same strategy to bring out a delay in the fight by being so far away, by being awkward in YALLA's position. They've got Sanji there this time on the front. The Molly will draw life onto one side and one side only, as Sanji, now getting caught by the Blues, has to dip back indoors and are now separated. This is exactly what GEEKAY wants.
Well, K in hand, and YALLA returns a knock right into the light of GEEKAY, but I mean, it's all falling down for them as Hope with the QBZ also gets knocked out as well. So, I mean, these two teams are so evenly matched as R8 is now coming to join the party.
And Life as well, already now trying to reposition, but R8, as you said it, very, very swift through from Paradise Resort 2. They punish out YALLA, will steal away the elimination point, and look at the shambles it is GEEKAY. 3 players knocked, only 1 available. They are not together, and R8 are very much on the pursuit.
R8 came in all the way from Paradise Resort. So this has come to the point where everyone in the map knows this is a weak point, just to mop up a lot of eliminations. Like here, GEEKAY now taken out as a second team out of the lobby just behind YALLA. So we have been touching on this all day, right, Island Wolf? It's they take their fights here, but everyone is aware that they're so weak while they're fighting that it's just easy eliminations to collect on. Yesterday it was POWR, and today it was R8.
And it was both of them 2 times in a row now. I mean, GEEKAY landing that brilliant shot onto Boomper as we check out the replay of how these teams fought through. And that was the initial knock down onto 1. Is there the second through Sanji, traded 1 for 1. And from that point onwards, it was a very scrappy fight for R8 to be able to clean up. And now Twisted also in their own skirmish as they look over the nade onto R2G, won't land into anyone, almost brought Unknown down to their knees, but R2G very healthy for the most part.
A road to glory. This is their comfort zone. This is Sanhok that they know how to play, know how to win. They usually land in the quarry area though, so they rotated quite quickly over to this area right by the riverside, close to the Painan area, which Twisted Mind is still taking up residence into, and they're preventing them from rotating any further.
Still, Twisted, I don't think they were really looking for all that much. Painan, still going to be their location, but they continue to hold up in for the meantime. And you saw this by Twisted yesterday, where they actually stayed in Painan all the way to about that phase 5, that phase 6 point. And there's no problem with doing this again. I also appreciate that NASR is further out on the location on the hillside, so they are still being adaptive and looking at the information of where teams will be coming in to that Painan location, because of course they understand that Painan is that very central position in this phase 1 zone, because that zone did go very far south.
We had a circle just on the outskirts of Painan. Was it yesterday or the day before? All the days are running together for me now. But this is a spot that the teams have very recently played, so they're kind of remembering, right? They're having a little bit of deja vu. Okay, the circle's coming here again. Who rotates where and who's coming from what positioning? The best IGLs in this lobby are going to be very able to really recognize, hey, at some point here on this hill, we should see, triple esports, because they love to rotate here. And we've taken a fight this way before. Let's come at it a different way if they didn't succeed last time around.
Team is beginning to make that cluster and that move forward. Triple, I believe, is spotted out one of those Twisted Minds members and do think better of it. Trying to draw out the bullets, but it's all the fight fear is going to happen by SKYROCKET as Cur12 going to draw first blood, going to draw second blood. It is 2 on the front for SKYROCKET, going to fall down for the meantime, but the rest of Kurd, they need to recuperate. They lose 1, they lose his M as well. SKYROCKET are fighting back, looking for Mohammed, but won't find it. The Bison now stepping back from Mohammed as they step back in forward, looking for the extra shots onto SKYR, but SKYROCKET, they will not be stopped for the meantime. Repositioning, carefully evaluating as an nade comes through onto Kazam. Will draw them down slower and put some pressure, of course, onto Kerr to make that revive, but no need to worry anymore because there they go out of the picture. It is Mad stepping in, trying their best, but Mohammed is there too, also in the back end, healing up. They need to have a better position here because both of them, they seem so split, and SKYROCKET are playing them either end of this building.
Either end indeed, very, very split up here as Kurt12 is going to be elevating themselves up into it. Comes and whips down and finds the last couple of shots onto Rip and takes him down. He jumps through the doorway and it's the 1 versus 2, able to be mopped up by Mohammed. So great stuff coming out from this team. And these two teams, they keep finding each other as now we're finding Twisted Minds on the hillside right above Hainan, looking on to Triple Esports, going for the flush. Ali is bleeding out and does get eliminated, and another Molotov, another resource thrown to the wayside into the direction of Twisted Mind.
And to draw back to that previous fight as well, Monica, bit Mad is that support player coming in. It's a substitute for the side of Code 12, so they're bringing in a new player, trying out a new strategy here, of course, because it isn't working right now, the current games that they've had so far today. It is seeming to be working for now, but we did lose 2 players in that engagement. None of those players will drop, as we saw from that engagement 2 by Triple and Twisted Minds. But a zone heading down towards that south side will at least draw potentially that more fighting for that all-important spot that they both have in a lot of the control of those teams from the north side coming down into the second phase.
These teams are definitely learning from previous games. We see, even though Hainan is in this circle, Twisted Minds, who did go there, who did drop there, right? Before they were caught, funneled into the city, no way to escape when the circle did leave the city eventually. So they're staying up on the hillside, right? They're not committing themselves into that urban environment. As we see Falcons, they're coming from being chased out of Kampong from Major Pride, and then they're still kind of rotating onto that Camp Charlie edge and still haven't made their way in.
And for Falcons as well, making their own way in is all of the teams still slowly on the rotation across. Is Falcons going for a bit of a dip inside the sunny weather right now of Sanhok. NASR, though, overlooking like the weathermen they are, and saying, well, there seems to be no one here for now. We have our own location down here in Camp Charlie, all to ourselves. They think as Falcons are beginning to surface up.
Camp Charlie. NASR is up on the hillside. Falcons, I mean, they've really caught themselves in a bad angle because they're on the down low side. NASR is up above. They heard a couple peppering shots, so maybe have announced their presence here, but I don't think any of these teams are really well within the circle, just kind of on the very edges. They're going to have to rotate at some point and get out of this area. As Kurd 12, I mean, we saw some great stuff come out from them in that engagement against SKYROCKET, but they're still on that northwestern island, and they still need to make their way onto the southwest.
In this zone, of course, very southern of a should we say circle, sorry. And I think the Twisted, again, good adaptation to go to Hainan, but it's NASR who will fall to the assassins who were Falcons. And it was Falcons beginning slowly to come up across that hillside in not for much longer, though, as that was a long shot through for Miracle to find that extra one of Falcons on top. And Falcons, I like that they made that play to be able to find the initial knock, but way too long where they sat in that same spot, which then, of course, allowed NASR to strike back. In quicker response, maybe Falcons could have got away with that without losing that member had they not.
Man, Falcons, 0 eliminations found despite being in a lot of these engagements. I mean, if Gringo does not get revived, they're going to have that elimination. But, I mean, they have the likes of Miracle, all these team members of NASR watching to prevent. But Ali, caught out in the open, and Damar is going to get a knock this time. So maybe, okay, maybe. I thought it was going to be 0, but they might have a chance to get 2 elimination points on this hillside. But need to focus on getting a little bit further in the circle soon.
Low Major Pride, though, they made a big rotation coming down to that south beachfront, and Never Alone sneaking away under the rock. We'll try to find an access point onto Frozen. Won't open fire for now, as of course Major do have that major player advantage is 2 versus 1 for the meantime. NASR Gringo will fall down, eliminate themselves. So we'll deny the elimination point going over to Falcons. One less opportunity for them, but there is clear ample opportunity if they can find those shots onto Major, but it will be difficult.
This is the second big rivalry that we see in this map as Major Pride, no me, finding Never Alone Falcon, leaving Falcons actually eliminated out of the map at the exact same time NASR did get redemption for their fallen teammates and finding the last player of Falcon. But while we see GEEKAY and YALLA constantly fighting, we're also constantly seeing Major Pride and Falcon fighting each other. And right now, I'd say the ties are in favor of Pride, right? They're definitely the much heavier fragging team, and they seem to really know how to keep their enemies on their toes.
The only team still as well to come inside of his zone too, the only one, and they are making their journey happen through from Barn Monarch. It's a long journey indeed. Luffy is already inside the edge of the zone, so we have some information. But on the outskirts of the south side, still NASR versus Major Pride as the secondary fight begins. But Batika is all on realistically their own in this initial front line versus Major, but doesn't need the support by the looks of it. Takes down one. Now Yen in a dual battle, but the rest of NASR coming in for the side means that they're trying to draw Major Pride into a fight in a position they are not favored in.
We always find Major Pride just a little bit too split up for our liking. I mean, yes, they're split up enough to get different amounts of information, being able to have a lot more control of that circle, but we always seem to find one getting knocked and just a little bit too far away from another teammate to come in quickly and support, as we see Frozen was knocked and immediately flushed. So Major Pride always seem to also find themselves not at full capacity going into the late parts of the game.
Very quiet now mid-game for these teams as they reposition, but it doesn't mean that the action isn't about to begin. It's Kurd still repositioning out of that ruined sector, but R8, they are again moving to control these teams on the major locations. In Kurd 12, finding themselves actually with only, of course, those 2 players, they have to make a bigger rotation into the blue, and that will cost them. Yes, they have the healing, but when it comes down to the healing strategy later in the game, every medkit will count for a team, but like Kurd, doesn't have the members for the fights.
They lost their members before. I mean, a lot's aggression at the beginning, but this is going to be quite the change now, because going into the late parts of the game with only 2, they're not going to be able to take those big team fights like they were before. They just simply don't have that fragging power. As we do see, I mean, we still have a healthy amount of teams that still have all 4 players left alive. Twisted Minds has come back now to their hometown of Painan. Hopefully they won't be punished for that one. Everyone just kind of having their miniature map open now and trying to see where it does go. And this time, I don't know if it's a far southern one. So Twisted Minds are going to have to come out of that city and get into this one. But they have certain teams like NIGMA, Galaxy, and Rad very happy with this zone.
And the good part, at least, about this zone, though, as much as it is a difficult zone to navigate in the center, is that both the bridges on that more eastern side of the zone still are available. Now, the smaller bridge, maybe not as much, but Camp Charlie still is a potential for these squads to make a wider rotation in. However, I do like that NASR also are beginning to send that one player, Batika, to stay on that location, to guard their overall position, because Camp Charlie's still on the edge, means that NASR can avoid a lot of the other pressure these teams will have when it comes to trying to find a new position themselves, which isn't in the compound, but as we say, in that very dangerous beginning middle of the circle.
Snake in the grass, snake in the grass. We got an anaconda now in the jungles of Sanhok, and we have Lord with the ghillie suit, but it's not enough to quite camouflage him into the foliage. And I don't know why 4K hasn't mobilized yet, but over here with Kurd 12, all right, we saw some shots go back and forth from them. He just gets J9, actually sorry, ID7 down to very half health as he gets the first 8 on up, but it's a blue zone. He's tanking the damage, and they're sending it one real close and personal to Madlord.
And I like that VORKE haven't made those shots because it's the only player is Kurt12 will fall down inside of that zone. The rest of them are outside, Monica. So if you lose Anaconda, you lose all the information and they do get spotted out. So perhaps, yes, now it would have been more beneficial to make a knock happen in their own terms, but you couldn't have predicted whether they go down or could have stayed alive for longer.
I thought the rest of his teammates were a little bit closer, but that makes sense now. He just came in all by his lonesome, but he was probably shaking in his boots with an entire team all surrounding. Twisted Minds moving out of Hainan and into one of the buildings of the small compound, sharing at this time with Rad. NIGMA Galaxy need to descend off of this mountaintop if it goes away from them one more time. Twisted Minds power sent into the water, playing the trolls underneath the bridge this time around.
And that bridge, really, you rotate now, Monica. It is, but signing your own death sentence says, yes, the bridge open. That looks wonderful. But the reason why there aren't any players on that bridge is because of all the players around the bridge. And that is why POWR taking the longer, slower approach on the underwater is RTG just can't cut it in terms of making it through the blue. But it is still POWR on the edge. Kante behind will catch out the straggler of the only one making those slow rotations in, and will be punished for it.
Great to be aggressive, but they're definitely on the wrong side of the bridge, wrong side of this circle because it's doing so much damage. 4K now down to, once again, down to only 2, which seems to be a reoccurring theme for them. They're just going to be on their belly, smoked out as Twisted Minds now trying to get the ownership of this compound away from Rad. They're throwing the utilities, they're throwing it now, and they're fighting for this northern circle side.
Twisted in their own compound, now being raided by the Rad crew. And Rad, they found one, but it's a one back from the nade, and Twisted Mind said we can do just what you do, but better, as they find the second on top of it. Make now the revive onto Dami. It's Vidan, has the covering fire. Ragnarok inside the building too, will not let Rad survive, and Rad eliminated, and still up to 5 eliminations for Twisted. But elsewhere, more of these solo players moving into triple UAS on a long jumping battle as NIGMA will claim though the mountain first with the vehicle.
We've seen NIGMA Galaxy, if they can keep all 4 players up alive, they can go real big and get a lot of those eliminations there on the top. They find NASR with the Groza and Milky Way Pride from across the way. So here they're dominating this eastern side, but the circle is not on them now, and they're going to have to contend with the likes of R8 and Twisted Minds coming up from the compound to try to get into this next one. Major Pride, Milky Way, getting Flushtown out and really putting them down to only 2 players up.
NASR, a brave attempt to say, stand up, sit back down. I understand this, don't want to get caught by NIGMA, as they are searching, hunting for those players. But they too need to get inside of that zone, and they too need to acknowledge that R8 are the ones in control. But they'd only have those 2 players, so the control will be difficult to say, to be able to fend off these full squads of NIGMA, of Twisted, as NIGMA will punish through 1 triple firing back, reduce that full squad down to 3. UAS continuing to slink their way into the game, but the blue zone will find them along with a Ragnarok bullet, as Twisted Minds will claim the elimination points.
I was wondering how he was still alive because he had literally 0.1 health. NIGMA Galaxy, the 2 that were sent further into the circle, 2 claw away now being found. I mean, this is redemption for Major Pride, and the pain, the punishment is paid right on back with interest onto NIGMA Galaxy. Oh no, another one bites the dust as it's going to be only 1 player, Raouf, left alive from NIGMA Galaxy, trying to stay alive, trying to get those knocks. It's going to be a 1 versus 1 on the outskirts. Yen throws a Molotov into the tree line right in front of Raouf as we see POWR fall down behind.
NIGMA, they may not find a second position finish this time around because Major Pride, they're here but down to 1, and it makes it a 1v1 play. Raouf trying to find the spray over the top of the hill, fires once more, but Yen dodges it a second time, and Raouf needing now to heal. It's Nomi sends out the molly, it catches Raouf, and that's crucial as NIGMA fall down in 5th position. Now Major Pride can make the revive, can get the 2 players up, have a position where maybe they may outlive even R8. Is there R8? Maybe, yes, they've got the zone, but Twisted Minds have the players and uncontested. Take it away from them, as Ida may just be caught out by Major stepping in, but can Ida make the surprise shot? Yes, they do. They find Jen. Now only needs to take down Nomi, but they can't do it. And Major grabbed the 2nd position, but Twisted caught their eyes on that battle and hunt out the win. In the blue they go and claim victory.
It was actually the play zone to get that last one, so at least Major Pride got the last laugh and denied the points, but Twisted Minds, I mean, at the beginning of this game, they must have toggled the in-game caption. There can only be one winner. Let's go, and let's go indeed. So Twisted Minds, I think they've been falling, and here they finally got their chicken dinner.
Look, they needed this game, Monica. They had a plethora of bad performances in a row now. So to get the confidence back on board as we check out those match rankings, of course, alongside those $1,000 along with it.
Of course, it's Sanhok. We're going to see the eliminations a little bit smaller than we would see in Miramar, in Erangel. 8 eliminations found from Twisted Minds, but it really came to that last, I'd say 5-10 minutes, because they hadn't really had a move at all, right? They came from Painan and just came a little bit further south into the hillside, but Major Pride, I mean, they've been fighting since the first second against Falcons, against all of these teams, so well fought for them.
And Major picking up, as we said, those 7 eliminations, but R8 NIGMA again getting those points on board, the only one too, getting those 9 overall points, at least trying to get to that 4th position as well. I think though for teams like Rad, who definitely could have had that game like Twisted, it was a much more in that battle before those final few teams. It really did count. As we check out those next pages, we see the result of that. Rad, they're in 14th because of that loss to that fight. There, again, no few points between a lot of those teams, however, on the second half. As we said, all of those eliminations really sponged up by those top squads.
GEEKAY, I guess we can put the tally in their favor. Hey, you won boot camp for about 30 seconds before
more,
R8,
right?
yeah, before R8 just came in and just kind of racked up everybody. So it's to the point where now this is a target. So they're not only a target for each other, but they're a target for all the teams in this lobby coming in and trying to rack up a ton of elimination points. So
yeah,
really, boot camp is just, I don't know.
I think for R8, it's a really good eye out, though, to catch out that rotation. Now, very fast looting phase, keep in mind, to get the ability of the equipment on their hands, and then also make that diversion down. It does come with risks in the essence that there could have been teams, but naturally the way that R8 actually rotated more towards that coastal line to, of course, avoid those players who were on the north side and the other teams really was exceptional, and R8 stepping up, of course, in that game. But as we check out, of course, all of the best Oppo moments from Sanhok, we will leave you guys once more with a quick one. One more Erangel game, one more chance, Monica, for these teams at the second Super Weekend to get those points. But it's none other than Oppo Reno 7 here below us too for that added value, upgraded fun, and upgraded performance. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G with designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile, Middle East, and Africa Esports 2022. Also, keep in mind Monster Energy 2, our official energy drinks partner, is we're going to be jumping also right into our overall standings, Monica, for where these teams are at.
Overalls, we've got one more match for this super weekend until it's gonna all not all reset, but it's gonna scores for the league play will reset and they'll have to re-qualify for next week's super weekend. So I mean, of course we see GEEKAY Esports at the top, but let's talk about NIGMA Galaxy now overcoming NASR Esports and taking back their second place position.
And of course, all these teams very comfortable, but the second page is where it really matters, Monica, because that's where the teams are going to struggle more so. And I think that realistically, you're looking at a world where now it's down to teams like the only one. Now it's down to teams like RTG who need those points because they are very close to that elimination spot. Of course, they're Falcons even closer who are now relying on this final opportunity.
CONQUEROR Iraq just about to slip off of the top 16. OOREDOO Thunder still staying up in that 13th spot, but we've already seen a couple matches ago where who was it? I think it was 90th minute had already slipped on down there, right? But yeah, this is the chopping block, right? This is the hey, I'm in danger if I don't qualify for next super weekend too, because the teams below me are definitely going to be striving to jump ahead of me.
Yeah, and of course, these final three teams, 90th, SKYROCKET, Courtois, all in that elimination zone. SKYROCKET need to get these points in this final Erangel game because it is all down to this one match, this one chance before these teams have to do it all again in the league stage if they want another shot at building their points into the finals.
Yes, repetitive Erangel. I mean, this is a map that we've seen a lot of very kind of central position circles so far. And we've seen the ones where, I mean, they're able to really capitalize on it, right? Like, obviously, GEEKAY, they won 2 of the Erangels today. And didn't they win 2 of the, no, was it 2 Erangels? Yeah, they won 2 of the Erangels yesterday
4.
as well. Oh my god! So they're literally I don't even want to know their win percentage, but it's just, I mean, if you had to bet $1 million, you would feel most comfortable betting on GEEKAY to win a Erangel.
Right, exactly. 80% win rate so far over the last 5 total Erangel games that we've had so far. I believe if you count all 6, they didn't win that second one. So it's about 4 out of 6 so far. So 66.6% overall percentage chance, but still a ridiculous number when it comes to Erangel only. And I think for GEEKAY, it all begins really as we argue once more their positions, Monica, that they have coming into the zone. Now, they make these often slower rotations, but effective rotations where they can come in and capitalize off of other teams fighting.
I think a lot of, I mean, you told me before this tournament even started, this is a very aggressive region. And I think it's really goes to show, right? POWR can win a game with 20 eliminations. GEEKAY can win a game with 18 eliminations. And these are the kind of teams that know how to position themselves in a way that if they hear the gunshots, they can come in a little bit closer. Not too close to where they, if they get knocked, they're going to get immediately flushed, right? But close enough that they can, hey, get some information, call the rest of the team where to position themselves to really come in for the third party at the best second and being able to rack up those eliminations. And now that I think of it, another team that does that really well is going to be Major Pride too.
And I really like as well this zone. It's a first phase zone we haven't really seen so far in a tournament, which does go towards that mainly eastern side, cutting out that South Island altogether for the most part. SKYROCKET gonna have to make that rotation later. I think though, as they usually do, wait for about that second phase to allow themselves safe passage through that bridge. Of course, Twisted Minds, also Code 12, kind of gatekeeping softly that eastern side. And Triple, as we all know, do gatekeep that western bridge until they move later in towards the beginning to the end of first phase into second. So I like that they keep it slow for the main part. Is a lot of these other teams making these rotations in the mainland also would run the risk, I think, of a zone like this, Monica, where you do actually catch themselves out. Now, a lot of that gatekeeping can be done on the other half by NIGMA, and I'm curious as to how NIGMA this time will control a lot of the position of that entrance on the west, but Rad in the fight.
Well, I mean, I was hoping for a 1 versus 4, something going on here, but Curd 12, I think they know when to push the fights here, and Rex actually getting very tagged down very low, as there's one more member of Curd 12 right on the bottom side. I mean, he's lost his confidence now, right? He's, hey, I'm by myself. Where are my teammates to provide me a little bit of support? But now reinforcements have come as K12 is going to be having a little bit more to fight.
And Code 12, Mad stepping out again, trying their best, but they've lost all but themselves, and also has needs to step up for the support because Mad is down also, and it's Rad on a killing spree when it comes to eliminations, gets to 3 Ps, and as quickly as they join, they are out of there.
That was great, right? This is the confidence that Rad really needs, because they land real close to Curd 12, right? Curd 12 is actually they were pushing this fight. They usually land in Milta. Curd 12 knows that they're at the bottom of the standing, so it's saying, hey guys, we need to play way more aggressive, push on that fight with Rad to our east, because we thought it was a really easy fight to collect up on that 1 elimination, but they bit off way more than they can chew. I think Curd 12 just is not comfortable with that aggressive play style and just couldn't get themselves set up correctly.
It just feels like Code 12 should have had that, though. They had all 4 players versus a solo player at the beginning of that fight, and it speaks to, I think, Code 12 really struggling when it comes to the team fight specifically, has been their really kryptonite in terms of the Super Weekend. I think their rotations haven't been too poor overall, but the team fight setup just does not seem on point. And you saw it not just this game, but the game before. Even though they came out on top with 2 players victorious, the opposite team was just dragging them back and forth, SKYROCKET drawing them to each end of that position.
It just seems so disconnected, discombobulated, every word that you can think of, right? It just seems they're not quite on the same page yet. And that it's very obvious when you're at that bottom of the standings. I think they have 50-some odd points right now, compared to a team like GEEKAY, who have they broken the 400-point mark yet? They're definitely well.
They're close. They are close to it. I mean, if you haven't checked the results, you can see them on the top of your screen as always. Flicking through the screen, we will get the confirmation on where, of course, that top standing is, but they're only 74 points in a very difficult spot, whereas you look at the opposite end, GEEKAY, right, 364 points out of their 29 games so far, a ridiculous number, who have steamrolled ahead of the rest.
Ridiculous indeed. So we're down to 60 players left in this lobby. Twisted Minds, they won the last match in Sanhok, and we see it go either one way, right? We see a player win it, but before we can get into that, let's just replay this insane fight between Rad and Curd 12. So Rad came out over here. We had one, actually, it was actually 2 members of Rad, right, hiding onto the outskirts, and Curd 12 was just, I mean, they were just falling like dominoes one after another, and it was just kind of, like you say, very disastrous. Everything's gone wrong. It is just Curd 12 just has such a mishap this entire weekend.
Yeah, I mean, he lost one right through the window. Mad tries to do the drop shot, doesn't finish off Rex, then another comes out solo, completely misses the shots, even though actually Rad also misfired their own beginning of their shots, which proves a mistake on both, but it was about who was better out of the worst 2 teams. And well, Rad clearly proved that with still a phenomenal 1v3 play.
GEEKAY, the team that has had a phenomenal entire weekend, entire tournament, entire just everything performance, right? They've come in just a little bit. This is very reminiscent of the first match today, right? Where and was it the first or the third? I'm getting my games messed up now, but it ended up in this kind of Yasnaya area, and GEEKAY, they're very comfortable here, and they make very similar rotations now into this open field.
Yonu one as well, very smack bang center in amongst all of these teams. I think this shelter does at least provide some sacrifice or help, so should I say, to the idea of the only one, because he can play again underground. Now, I think obviously teams are very reluctant again to play in this past the looting stage, because it does come with the risk of teams beginning to camp those entrances. However, the only one very comfortable for now in their own location of their compound, in very carefully pushing triple away, letting themselves be known that they are in this location, but not going too far extended, and do yet a few smokes and of course the retreat from triple overall.
Okay, Golden really committed to trying to get one of these players of Triple Esports. He does them about halfway health though, but he's able to slip on away. Circle about to come in one more time, favoring the northern. Okay, this is setting itself up to be very, very similar to a previous Erangel match, the one where GEEKAY won, and it was just to the south of Yasnaya. Yeah.
I mean, I think realistically, teams such as Major Pride gonna kind of look towards that Roshog side. I don't think I would see them going too far into the barrel holes for now. I think the Roshog is a very sensible position for the meantime. Teams who are much closer into this zone like Major Pride, I'm curious to actually understand why they aren't going for those spots, such as that hill that they took last time. Instead, going for a much more central position around the likes of NASR, around the likes of GEEKAY, and it comes with a lot more risk. So maybe for the side of Power, not only looking for teams maybe to catch out for the elimination points, but still in the midst of doing that information work, trying to gather where teams currently are.
We've seen Circles how they're in this area, right? A lot of dips here, a lot of small compounds, but you get so congested. So it's really difficult to take an early game fight like this, because you have everyone lingering on the ridges around you to come in and try to third party, kind of pepper on and just kind of spoil the clean fight that you would have hoped to have. Power, they're just kind of, and this is very similar to how they rotate GAKA, right? We've seen this. They just kind of keep driving and driving and driving until they have nowhere left to go. They can't seem to make up their mind of where to stop.
Power, now, as we said, we're just continuing to drive, and it may look like a rodeo on one hand, but it's not a rodeo these other teams enjoy. It's the only one put a stop to one of the members of Power for now. But the worst part is that they have trapped themselves in a hole where, yes, they are safe for now, but look at GEEKAY is in the only one's position, Monica. The moment they step out of that hole itself, will be under fire and in the absolute open too.
Last game of the day, Power just, we've seen moments of glory from them previously, but just today just seemed to have not woken up yet. Maybe forgot to drink their monster at the beginning of the day. SKYROCKET's up from the military base where they do love to drop. We might see them change their spots though, because remember, in league play, we're gonna have OOREDOO Thunders back trying to contend back into next week's Super Weekend, but rotating up now just past shelter and nobody in sight right now.
And of course, a lot of those teams that do miss out on that second Super Weekend gonna need those points once more, as we argued, because they are all in pretty much danger of not making it. And I think for the other hand of that, though, these teams still competing in this second weekend who have only just begun competing under a lot more pressure, because they'd have to play more games consecutively, Monica. Whereas these other teams who are stepping out for the weekend, yes, it's going to be a lot of pressure still on that first week. They had these days of rest, these days to look at the playstyle of other teams and come up with new strategies for that third week.
It's definitely the homework, it's the VOD review, it's everything outside of just literally playing the game that will make a team perform better. This Eastern Circle, however, though, is playing right into the favor of teams that do land on that Eastern side, such as 4K, such as the only one. But everyone's converging now, and we haven't lost a single team yet, so it's just getting so much more congested. There's no social distancing in this end circle, as everyone is going to be shoulder to shoulder.
Look, who needs social distancing, Monica? I've got the idea. If you just send down fireballs from the sky, you just burn all the germs or the players away, right? I mean, that also gets them closer in the zone and gets them to fight, and that's exactly what we're after, because us as mean people, Monica, want these team fights to happen.
Yeah, just manifest a mini red zone just on top of your enemies, right where they
just
are.
Send 501s all over. Just who needs, right, red zones outside the zone? How about we just make the entirety of the play area of red zone 2? That's the 4K IQ strategy. And Lord didn't want any of it. He heard our calls and he was just like, I'm out, guys. I don't want any.
He's like, I don't want to finish out this match anymore. I'm gonna leave everyone else to go for it. And Enigma Galaxy, I mean, this is kind of, they're notorious for these kind of no information, last ditch rotations of they're losing players one by one on the rotate. And so they just need to figure out their timing, right? Because clearly this middle game rotation is not working well for them as they're just rotating blindly through all of these teams.
Salam, SKYROCKET gonna almost find Freak, but the only one will find down Clever there. Hamodi will be able to grab it up, but it's a 1-for-1 as NIGMA did lose out that extra member and as a result need to come over and make the revive, but it's a very difficult position to do so. They will lose Freak, they may even lose Rauf now as well.
I mean, they need to kind of cut their losses here, right? They have 2 members still left alive in the middle of the field, 1 vehicle to call for cover with all the teams like SKYROCKET, like Triple Esports, all next to them, lobbying resources towards them. And it's going to be so difficult for them to get out of here. Now, they have a little bit of a dip at Triple Esports that unfortunately Enigma Galaxy does not have, as Rauf, he does find his end, knocked now from SKYROCKETs, and they know it's going to be 1 left alive, and they want to clean up their food.
SKYROCKETs setting themselves up on the hillside. They miss out, though, on that elimination. I believe the only one claimed that one away just before SKYROCKET could reach it, and as a result, now under fire in their position, will be back on retreat as quick as they came, and SKYROCKET, for now, going to actually abandon the buggy and get 2 inside the vehicle. So it is, I think, a risky strategy, considering I don't believe SKYROCKET have a secondary vehicle here. It may be the only one they own.
Unfortunately, their punching bag, that is Kurd 12, is not really in this lobby. Only 1 just hanging on by a thread. This one, though, this phase, it's going to be hugging the northern side of the mansion while having all that open field. There really is no compound to have in this circle. Maybe 1, maybe 2, but they're going to be very small. So we're going to have a lot of open fields and using the vehicles as cover and maybe just hiding behind a tree or a rock.
Yeah, and again, this road as well, and these kind of dirt paths and more open fields really do separate a lot of these teams quite far away from the center of that zone. So all of them really being forced this time to play on the edge rather than that south side or that northern side up towards Mansion. But Mansion, with its own difficulties, I think, can also become a little bit of a too safe point where teams like 4K maybe find it suddenly difficult to rotate. Esports do center out on that northern side around them.
Twisted Minds not allowing RA any room within this circle. They've been shot actually from the back end side. R8 actually, wow, in 1 fell swoop they just couldn't even get inside, not even able to feel that AC inside the warehouse. And Twisted Minds from the back end of Shelter, great for them to collect on these eliminations, and now they have a free rotate into this next phase.
And now POWR too, with those 2 eliminations, looking for the art museum, but is Twisted Minds already there inside the smoke? So it will be POWR, a secondary fight that they have to take up. Major Pride also on the big rotation through, won't lose any members for now, but you can see in the elimination feed, NIGMA will take out another of GEEKAY, as GEEKAY having a bad time, and big 1-for-1 trade by Twisted, but the extra shots come through, and it is POWR who find themselves eliminated. 6 eliminations so far. NIGMA will fall down to triple, and Clever scoring out them in 14th.
It's actually funny, Twisted Minds did wipe out, was it R8 before, and immediately POWR came and just scavenged off those crates trying to loot up and take the resources, and then Twisted Minds said, no, those are for us, we already claimed them, and came and took them out as well. But like you said, GEEKAY, wow, they are taken out so early in the match, so I guess it's going to open the pathways for some of these other teams to finally get a chicken dinner on Erangel.
No 66.7% chance this time, Monica. It's the other hand. It's a lower percentage. And for all of you that put your money where your mouth is for GEEKAY, shame on you, because it is another team that will be able to get this victory today. But it's not RTG, as they will be the next to slip under.
Next to slip under, Twisted Minds starting to mobilize, coming out of the warehouses. They have just the edge of this circle. It may shift off to them in the next one, but the only one they're watching with the DPs, the triple esports as well. Just a little bit from YALLA. We've seen some unfortunate experiences in the matches today for YALLA, but they're able to hide behind some of the trees now, starting to get in their vehicles as they're on that eastern side.
And I'm actually interested in the fact that no team really has taken up a position on Prison, actually, and not really used those hills that are available. A lot of them all focusing on these other spots of the zone, which really is a shock considering that Prison is one of those really more strength positions of this. So now I'm expecting it. Rad should move into those hills now. NASR may also try to do the same, but it will be more difficult because they have a steeper hill to climb, whereas Rad have a very easy elevation up and will already send one player correctly into this prison compound.
M16 single shot spraying into the distance onto the likes of YALLA 4K. They still need to go for a reset here onto Golden. 2 eliminations found so far, but everyone, they're starting to take their kind of lateral engagements onto the sides. Oh, we saw the K9. I don't believe it made contact though. YALLA trying to come up on the backside of triple esports, but down in the trenches here, another utility thrown into the wayside by triple esports. So all of them, I mean, this is just going down one by one from either side.
And Rad overlooking this fight, caught out another of YALLA as well. They were trying to set up with the nades, but now it makes it all but more difficult as a secondary nade goes bouncing into the smoke, finds one, finds the knockdown almost onto life as well, who just healed up in time. Sanji solo too, heals back for more, but do triple have any more nades? Are they all out of utility? And is this the time now that YALLA slowly look to push? They've got one of their own. Will fly out with a nade on top, but triple dodge it out for the meantime as we check back out of the replay all the while at 4K. That looks like a 1 and a 2 tap by Sanji.
What a wonderful shot from the SLR, the only one starting to get in their vehicles, revving the engines, looking for a way to get in as Ziad. He's a little bit closer behind one tree as he sees the smoke starting to plume. NASR also finding one knock on to the only one. It's FALCONS. I mean, everybody, they've got their eyesight to the center, and everyone is shooting at everyone that they have eyes on.
And FALCONS now in a bit of a control of a position, but you can see because he entered first, Monica, now the teams are eyeing them up as the target. Last is the only one there, sends a nade back, will take out Nah, but there is 3 more, only 1 members to go. Another nade on top is trying to siphon out those extra members of the only one, but it misses and to no avail. A secondary knock as the only one chucks one back themselves.
This is the mini red zone that we wanted to see. I think that was about 5 grenades thrown into the direction of the only one as they're trying to buy themselves some time, going for the reset if they can. But they cannot forget about all the teams behind them as well. They're running out of resources. They're running out of cover. And most importantly, they're running out of time to try to get in as one more is going to be knocked down on his feet. Last, he just couldn't last long enough from across the way, eliminated in 8th position.
Right. Monica, they could take this game. That zone is shifted down to the south side. There's the edge of the prison still there, which is available to them. However, you do have to keep in mind that there is SKYROCKET inside this wizard tower, looking very comfortable in the center zone. Now, SKYROCKET have a lot of defending maneuvers to make. Is Twisted Minds also will definitely look to try punish this wizard tower as a location to drive on into.
Major Pride just cannot catch a break and can't get past that mid-game to get into the end stages here. Milky Way from across the way. They're just hanging on by the skin of their teeth as NoMe just kind of strafing from left and right, but it's just, there's no way to get in this circle with all these teams watching in his direction.
Okay, I don't know if you noticed it on the elimination feed, but Rad just took out one of their own members. Delhap took out Rex, and that was an elimination, Monica.
Like,
so Rad, they are down a member to 3. That was a big mistake by them. Now they have to continue to push. Twisted still have all 4 players up. They do have more statistically, but they have more space to travel still. SKYROCKET with 3 are also a threat, but they're very much confined to a wizard tower. So still Rad have the onus on them to continue the pressure.
Yeah, that teammate was just couldn't stay up, was burning all the resources, and they're like, we're gonna stop, you're our handicaps, we're gonna take you out of the match in return. But 11 eliminations found so far from Rad up on top. Kato still with that DP, going for a quick reload as he's watching to clear out the solos. It's gonna be golden on the receiving end though. He's tanking the blue zone damage. Well, I guess just pick your poison, blue zone damage or the DP shots from Rad.
It looks like Rad realistically do want, of course, those extra DP shots. You know they want those elimination points. It's 4K. Try their best to step in onto that zone, but immediately expired by the rest of Rad's bullets. Looking over, Twisted Minds, Dami pinned down on the tree line. They try fire back, keeps Delhap at bay for now, but Twisted Minds need more than at bay to be able to push forward, because keep in mind, SKYROCKETs are still there as well.
Yeah, SKYROCKET in the sandwich in between these two titans of the lobby. They've got a drop landing right in between Twisted Minds and SKYROCKET, so I'm wondering if anyone is bold enough to go for that. Anna still watching on the right-hand side, looking up above at where Rad has the vantage points down. The circle is going to be right in the center, though. The lighting SKYROCKET, but Rad and Twisted Minds are going to be holding each other outside as Twisted Minds. And they're going to stay a little bit quiet as now the fight between Rad and SKYROCKET is opening up.
And SKYROCKETs are under power of Rad now as they look to seize the buildings and its tax collection of the elimination points. But SKYROCKET, they had the plan all laid out and they will evade those nades. They take down one of Rad. SKYROCKET will lose though 1 to Twisted Minds as it's from each different way, bamboozling the pink tier of SKYROCKET's wizard tower. And Rad coming in from the opposite direction. It's SKYROCKETs who's the sandwich, who's the juicy meat of the elimination points of Rad, of Twisted Minds. But here, Twisted keep themselves alive, and it's a second chicken dinner of the day, Monica, for themselves. They are the ones that are the juiciest of chicken dinners for themselves.
It seems like such a pattern with these teams that they win one match. They seem to do well once again in the match for the next one. I mean, you see on GEEKAY, right? They won the first game today. They had a great Miramar and then won the third one as well. So Twisted Minds, I mean, they heard us kind of beating them down as they were falling on the standings. They know we got to redeem ourselves, and they're clawing their way up back. But that was such a great performance. I don't think Twisted Minds could have played that any better.
Like Twisted Minds, it was a battle of patience for them, Monica. They got that patience on board and were justly rewarded for it with those match rankings, as we can see, $1,000, but also 26 points, 14 eliminations though for Rad, who take those 26 points. And that was a very important game, despite not getting the win for Rad, because as we said, Monica, coming into this was the last chance for teams this weekend to get their points, and Rad were one of those teams who needed just that.
It was a lot of aggression on their part, and getting that 1 point advantage over Twisted Minds was great from them. Actually, 4K was at 6 eliminations, and I don't remember seeing them kind of right towards the end. Remember their crawl. The last one was who was it? Golden, I think, who was trying to crawl in and drive on in. But that was a lot of eliminations found too, because they went out. What, fourth position? I think
Yes.
it was able to still get higher than two other teams right below.
Right, and I think for the only one in Skyrocket, again, getting those 12, 11 points, it's not the major points that Rad really got in that game, but it's still points nevertheless, and it is above the
Yeah.
average that teams really do look for in terms of per game average points in these Super Weekends, which is lying about that 7 or so mark. So doing well in this final game, all of these kind of teams who needed the points statistically. However, I think still more needs to be done. And as we check out that next page, we have to remind ourselves that there were teams who need those points that didn't get them, such as Kurtwell for the Falcons there.
Of course, the most surprising was GEEKAY Esports going out so early in the match. But I mean, they hurt us, right? We said we got to nerf GEEKAY, and the teams kind of all ganged up on them and took them out earlier. They said, try to give other people a chance. Sharing is caring, to try to get in a chicken dinner at the end of the match.
Look, I mean, sharing Twisted Minds, this is their second of the day, Monica. They'll take the entire platter when it comes to the chicken, the flex, as we check out those overall standings, so of where that puts Twisted Minds back in that top five with 249 points, but it is very much leading the charge in that pole position, 364 for GK.
Wow. So even though GK went out with 0 points, that's okay, because NIGMA Galaxy also went out pretty early. So they only got 1 point in that last match. So the gap between them has still basically stayed the same. And
Yes.
NASR really, I mean, they had a okay game, right? 5 points. So a lot of the ones on the top, maybe it's just, game five jitters or something, or game five mentality,
Pressure,
where the
right?
top teams, they really didn't do that well, except for Twisted Minds.
Yes, and I think as well, when we look at those overall standings, we are really confirming, I think, I would argue all of those top 8 teams through to the finals, I would say. I mean, certainly the looks of the top 5, Monica, Twisted Minds upwards, very much expect them to see
Wow.
these teams at the end of July. I mean, you're really looking about that 180 point is about that safe mark, just to be sure in the upper half of the guessing. But as we said, it is all of these teams looking to try take the points away next weekend from these next page teams, Monica, who also need those spots in the Super Weekend 3. And that is where those points really matter. Falcons still in that 15th position. They're also CONQUEROR after their 15 games last weekend, slightly behind. But teams like 30 on those, the only one esports still in 14th.
The point difference in the top half minus GK was, I think, there's 3 points between second place and fifth place. And then in the middle ground here, the points are also fairly close and a lot more volatile. For example, we had Rad do so well in that last match, getting the most points out of any team, and jumping actually from 12th place all the way up to 11. Okay, all the way up, but one placement point it still matters, right? That's a higher prize
Yes.
pool for that placement. As we see some of the teams that aren't in the Super Weekend, they haven't lost their position yet. So at least Conquer Iraq and Dorito Thunders can come back, try to qualify for next week's Super Weekend, and say, okay, we're still in, top 16 to try to make it into the finals.
And I think for Rod, they've actually done very phenomenally for themselves, at least today specifically. They have had these good games where they've been setting up positions. And yes, they've had also bad games today, but for the most part, getting themselves in towards the top half of that second page. But on that last page, so that's where the eliminations take place, Monica. And SKYROCKET, very close, of course, to that 16th spot, but not quite good enough.
The point difference was 119 points. That's what Conquer Iraq was at in 16th position. So, yeah, it is 15 points in difference, but they have overcome 90th minute, so they can at least take that. But current 12, I mean, they got 75 points across 15 matches. That's what, like 3 points a match? That is not, or not 3 points a match. I can't do quick math, but they this is not enough points per match to try to get up in that top 16.
Yeah, only 5 points per game. They are going to need a phenomenal week 3 to be able to qualify, and they need to get there. But if you at home want your own rewards on the tournament too, you've got 4 more days to do so with the Grizzly Bear card collection and join in the card collection draw and win outfits. There is a chance, of course, to get all the pieces of an item in one go, but that time to do so, Monica, is very short-lived.
Definitely want to be able to show off all these cool skins, especially when they're very exclusive, only available for a very short amount of time. I want to see you guys, post on socials, tag us PMPL Arabia, and let us know, how much do you like this skin and which teams are you rooting for as we jump into the next week of Super Weekend.
Yeah, we'll be back with you, of course, on Monday here for a 5-day week. Do not forget, we will be here, Monica, and the rest of you on Wednesday as well. Not a break day for all of the action and to see who qualifies into those finals. We'll catch you then, same time, same place as always. See you later.